speak from the heart, what I'm
Yep.
passionate about.
Yep.
That was my takeaway.
But any thoughts in terms of how the whole thing can actually go forward a little more? Anything on that?
I think people need to know more about mediation. They're familiar with arbitration,
Exactly.
but not so much about mediation.
Which means we have to have those conversations with everyone we meet.
Right.
Hi, Zamena. Zamena's connecting. Hi, Zamena.
Hello, Vikram.
Am I pronouncing it properly?
Yeah, it's Jimena. Very good.
Jimena,
Yeah.
Jimena. Okay, you have to get this pronunciation right. Jimena.
Jimena. Yeah.
Jimena. Okay. Okay, what I've decided.
And your name is Vikram?
Vikram. Yeah, Vikram. Yeah.
Hello, Karin.
But
hi, how are you?
No, the thing that I've decided is everyone should have their mobile with them, and whoever they see, they should just quickly go on LinkedIn and see who the person is, rather than the person introducing themselves.
That's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now the only thing is that I have the YouTube thing going on. Okay, so now Stuart is here. Oof, yes. Okay, so Stuart is here. Stuart,
Hi, everyone.
no, so okay, I was just telling them, I'm telling you also, just keep your mobile in your hand, and just by the person's name, you do your research, find out who the person is. Person will not introduce themselves, so that we can. Jimena is here. She would tell us more about herself rather than her telling us about what work she's doing. We would rather hear about the person. Yes, Jimena, where are you sitting? Which place in Brazil?
Sorry?
Where in Brazil are you?
No, I'm in Chile.
Chile.
I live in Santiago, Chile. So it's nearby Brazil, but yeah, we are much more in the bottom of the world.
No, but it must be nice. It must be a nice place.
Yeah, it is a very nice country. Very, very nice.
Not bad. So because the thing with us is, at least look, getting to Chile, I don't think it's going to happen very soon. So we'll have to just take your word for it.
That is true. That is true. Yeah.
But Karen is in Atlanta and Stuart is in UK.
Stuart is in UK and Karen is in Atlanta, in the United States.
But why don't you? Yes, true. That's a good idea. What Jimena has done. Jimena, she's written the country in front of her name. Why don't you do that?
Yeah.
That's a very good idea. If you can write the city and the country.
Idea.
Okay, the city. Yeah, I will put the city then.
Yeah, I think it's a damn good idea. One major aspect gets taken care of. But have both of you gone through that meeting, that video? 2 hours or 42. Tell me honestly, 2 hours 45 minutes have you seen or not seen?
I'm afraid I didn't have time.
My God.
Been a busy week. I apologize.
Jimena, have you done that? Have you seen the whole thing?
Yeah, I'm, to be honest, not the whole thing, because it was more than 2 hours, but I saw something. Mainly the part of the discussion about mediation and arbitration, and why people tend to choose mediation, arbitration instead of mediation.
But have you got the same experience in Chile?
Oh, exactly the same. Yeah, exactly the same.
Once before we go further, you just give me the right pronunciation. Chile. What do you pronounce it? Chile.
Yeah. Chile in Spanish, and in English is Chile.
What would you prefer?
I prefer Chile because Chile, you can confuse it with a special food.
It's food.
So Chile is better.
Chile is better. Yeah. Stuart, please put your city also. You can't just say UK. You have to do more than that.
You have to be more specific.
Jimena, let me tell you, we sat through that 2 hours 45 minutes without taking a bathroom break. We were so involved in that discussion. Everyone. I mean, imagine 2 hours 45 minutes just went off. no one got up. And after that, then at the end of it, we discussed with Mr. Akesanya, who's coming tomorrow, that after 90 minutes, a bathroom break will be taken, and then we'll come back to discussion. Imagine, they were so
Okay.
everyone's so passionate about it. 2 hours 45. I also did not believe that when I finally saw the recording. 2 hours 45 minutes. Amazing. There's such,
Yeah,
and
must-
this is like, and there's so much more to discuss. But
yeah,
imagine.
and the person who was tend to be there was not there. So
Exactly.
imagine, Mr. Pachu, he was not there.
He wasn't there. But at least the
So
good thing is the show went on. That's what I wrote to him also. I said, I mean, in the sense I wrote there also, the show went on. Now he's coming on the 13th. He's coming on the
okay,
13th. Yeah. But you
okay,
know that on 6th, Ken Cloak is coming. So yeah. So
yeah,
because the thing is that with legends like that, one episode is nothing. I mean, and right now with Ken, we are only in the 40s and the 50s we've done. So 1940s, 1950s. Now we have to get into the 60s, and so there's a long journey. So there's no hurry. Are you people in a hurry? You're not in any hurry, are you?
no,
Yeah.
not a Saturday morning.
Okay, Emily is here. Emily, hi Emily.
Hi.
Emily, look. Again, I'll repeat to you. You have to have your mobile with you. You have to, with their names, you search their names, you find out who they are. They're not going to tell you who they are. Our discussions will continue without
Okay.
any introductions by anyone. Their names are there. You have to put your country and your city there.
Okay. Wait a second.
And I'm not going to do it. If you don't know where I am, then it's good. So Emily, what Emily is doing is very nice thing she's done is that she has something called the midweek talk. So on mediation, she calls someone and they discuss some, as to like the next one I think is on investor state dispute. So she has that happening. So I mean, people like that are out there trying to educate people, just having that conversation. So I think we just need people to be having conversations, talking about it with everyone. Because I just, what I feel is, I don't know if people know, a lot of people in India also, most people, no one actually, they don't know that we have such a beautiful law. Although it's called conciliation, it has everything in it in terms of standards for mediators. The best part is enforcement. A settlement agreement reached through the conciliation process is as good as a court degree. No one knows about it. You see interviews of lawyers, they say we don't have a law. Everyone's waiting for some mediation law which is being drafted. Here you have a conciliation part. That part of it, in conciliation, the conciliator can actually suggest to the parties, it's specifically provided there. But if you don't want that formal structure, you go for mediation. If you don't want to go, because confidentiality and without prejudice is protected by law. We are one of those countries which have that. The US is still, I mean, Jeff Kitchavin is going all about saying that confidentiality is a myth in the US because laws in each state are different. So one state can ask for something which happened in mediation in another state. So your mediation is not confidential there. In India, like I said, we have confidentiality and without prejudice protected under that law. So you can have both the options. You can have conciliation, go for the formal structure. You have mediation, you go for your informal structure. If both of them are available. So similarly, I think countries have that maybe, and then no one talks about it because I'm talking about the Indian experience. No one talks about it because people, I think, expect lawyers to talk about it. Lawyers are not talking about it. So we have to go straight to the people, educate people directly. But Emily, did you have a look at that video? Did you go through the recording?
I didn't have the chance to go through the
Wow.
recording, but
Imagine.
what I was just thinking of when you said about having an formal conciliation proceeding and an informal mediation proceeding, I agree that mediation is much more informal than conciliation might
Yeah.
be.
And we have yeah.
But don't you think that it's necessary for people being familiarized with conciliation or arbitration to actually give them some kind of structure, at least at the beginning? Once they're in the mediation, they don't have a problem with adjusting to it, but to have them somehow an impression of what mediation might look like,
Yep.
in order for them to feel more comfortable in entering it or participating.
So that's what, look, what I've been, I know, that's why I said if you guys should have watched that video.
I'm
What we,
sorry.
okay, I'll tell you where we went from there. What we went, we had some students there also. We had a lecturer from the Malaysia. So she was there. So she had called me, they had called me for some the mediation competition. So I was a mediator in that competition. But they told me, look, this is basically the show of the students. So you don't have to do anything. You're a potted plant kind of thing. Okay, so we went through that process. So when I was just telling them that basically this is not real life experience for the students. This is just, okay, some format has been made and it's being repeated in every competition. So what I said was, why don't you have a situation where real people with real disputes are sitting there and they have given their consent that this can be, the other people can watch it. So I'm saying to going to the extent that it can be broadcast live. So people get a real experience of mediation. Is you have an experienced mediator sitting there. The students are doing, or it could be anyone. No, I'm saying not just students. It could be anyone who wants to learn mediation. People who have done training also, maybe anyone just sitting there, they can do the actual mediation. The person, experienced person, in some way assists them, directs them to whatever they want to do. It's like actually a teaching process. It's like a surgeon. He actually is giving surgery to let the student do the surgery, because if he doesn't do the surgery himself, you can't do a mock surgery and send him to the operation table. So this kind of thing we discussed, or they liked the idea. So what I said was, why don't you start discussing it and let it go out, discuss it with, first of all, students. Let's do students itself, because if we can train them properly, but the way mediation can develop will be much better. So I said, everyone should, all over the world, the students should start that process. On all these competitions should be realized. So I've been talking to these kids from India. So there was one particular institution where they're going to have a competition in March. I said, why don't you start discussing whether you can have a live thing? I mean, get a actual dispute in. So they said they like the idea. Now, where do they get the person is what they have to start doing. So why not? Start this discussion, you maybe find, because what I said was, let the person, the people with the dispute, get that whole mediation process for free. Normally, I don't like free and mediation to be used together. People should pay for mediation. But in this case, let that process be free for the person with the dispute. The students are learning, which is good enough for us. So do that. And once that whole process goes out, people who actually have that mediator mindset, because I've been saying, we identify the people with the mediator mindset. Now we have to give them some platform where they can try out their skills, because this whole training aspect, like, for me, is another world. Courts is another world. These are words that I'm not part of. I don't want to be part of that. I'm saying because we need numbers. What I said was, Emily, you do not see the video, so I'll repeat it. I'll have to go through 2 hours 45 minutes of the video. I'll have to repeat that 2 hours 45 minutes. I said WHO says that one doctor for 1,000 people. We need similar number of mediators. So which means that we need, how many we have? What, 7 billion population? So 7 million mediators we need. So what I'm doing is, I am out there getting out to 1,000 people. I've decided my target right now is 1,000 people. And these are the people with the mediator mindset. So the people that are already there on LinkedIn and everything, that refinement process will happen. But if I can get those 1,000 people and they can go out and get those 1,000 people, we have 1 million people. These are people who with the mediator mindset, mind you, not the fact that whether they had some training or certification of that, nothing. I'm not concerned with that aspect at all. So if you can, 1,000 people, I'm not saying it's going to happen in 6 months. It can take a year, 2 years, whatever it takes. Because these are children also, I mean, students also. If you see my group, because you people are part of the International Mediators Collective. Now there's the India Mediators Collective. So I've got students in that. Because in India, the advantage is anyone can be a mediator. No qualification. And this is the situation with most countries. People don't know that. But because normally the legislation will not want to regulate who can be a mediator, because otherwise, if you have a family dispute and you call your uncle in, you'll say, no, uncle has to go for certification and then he can be a mediator in our dispute, which cannot happen. So I think no country will regulate that. But if they have done it, I don't know about it. You people would know better. But in India, there is no such thing. Anyone can be a mediator, which is the right thing. But parties decide. They want whoever they want, whom they are comfortable with. It's their dispute. So who's there? Who has to say that? And anyway, in India right now, even there was a qualification for arbitrators also in the legislation. The the government has withdrawn that also because the matter went to the Supreme Court on something. But I don't discuss the courts and everything. We won't do that. But I'm just saying that today arbitrators also don't have a qualification. So mediators, so in no way is regulated or should be regulated. So if you have these people, 1,000, you people can reach out to 1,000 people on your own. What I am doing, you can do the same thing. Have a channel, have these discussions, get people involved. So but it has to be very clear that has to be people with that mindset. You have to gauge that part. How you do it is, I think you can get that feeling, that energy or whatever it might be. But that you can't compromise on, because this is quality assurance. Because once you have those 1,000 out there, they're reaching out to so many people. We don't want to give the user a bad experience. The user experience has to be really good. Otherwise, the whole concept of mediation will go for a 6.
So if I understand you correctly, what you mean is that you're actually a fan of no qualification system. So you think everybody can be a mediator as long as he fulfills a certain mindset.
Absolutely.
And do you then agree to have like to standardize or have certain standards like the IMI publishes, or do you say no, we don't need this because it's always different?
But Emily, the thing is that you haven't even gone through my web page also, I'm sure. That little one page I have, that's all. All I put out there was, I put out our act, our Arbitration and Conciliation Act has put out standards for the conciliators. Standards are part of the law. So the law can provide for the standards, but they have to be provided by the law, not by anyone else, because the law, if you have to regulate, if you have to regulate conciliation, like in our case, you regulate that. But mediation you don't regulate, because that's an informal process which is going to happen. Look, don't have to have this limited concept of mediation in terms of commercial transactions or anything. Mediation has to happen at community level. Let's start with that process. Whenever we think of mediation, let's not get into all that we've heard about investor state or commercial. Let's just put that out of our mind. Let's say mediation at the community level we're talking about. What regulation do you want to do at the community level, and why do you want to do it? If a person in the community is respected and everyone wants to go there and say, okay, you should be a mediator, should your law stop that? I don't think so. It will be a big problem.
I do understand. I try to I think it might also depend on and indeed, I think it also depends on the cultural background. It might be in certain areas or countries, it might be easier to establish such a person, even if he's not a mediator, whereas in other parts of the world, it might be easier to have someone trained in order to get that person's trust. I think it hardly depends on the culture you're from.
No, not just culture. It also depends on what stage in terms of maturity in mediation are you as a country. So what will be applicable for Australia or the US will not be applicable for India, because the whole structure in terms of the concept of mediation is so different. So when you're out there, it's like developing country. To expect, I mean, our roads and the roads in Austria to be the same, it's not going to happen. It's going to take its time. So to say no, if you don't have this kind of road, you can't drive on the road. We all of us will be sitting at home. In any case, a lot of people are right now. But I'm just saying that the fact that which market are you regulating and when are you going to regulate, let that happen. There's very nice, I don't know whether you saw that. I put it out on my YouTube channel. Go to the playlist, January playlist. I don't know, January, whatever. Basically, Hiro Agaki, I don't if I'm pronouncing his name properly. He's in the US. He's very specifically spoken about the US market. He says here we don't regulate who can be a mediator. Let the market decide. It's a very good. It's a little clip of his. If you have a look at that, and this is he's talking about.
Can you put it in the chat, Vikram? Can you put his name in the chat?
Zimena, you have to start going to my channel also. You people want everything to be given to you in doses. Not going to happen. I do so much work out there.
I went to your channel, but you have a lot of hours.
Exactly. So I expect you to at least go to the latest one. Go to the January 2021. Let me see. I'll just show you. Give me a minute. This is really sad.
But you also have to understand that the English in the different countries it's different pronunciation, so it's difficult to get the name like immediately.
His name is H-I-R-O. H-I-R-O. Just write H-I-R-O in LinkedIn. You'll get only one person.
Okay, I will do that.
But I'm talking about this specific clip. There's a very short clip which I found there because he was talking about this specific thing. I wanted you to have a look at that part because this is now a mature market like the US. And he's saying even in our country, it's not regulated. Anyone can be a mediator. We have said that
community level, it's also not
let the market decide.
regulated.
Let me just see now.
In the UK at community level, it is also fairly deregulated.
Yeah.
And there, I think there are some benefits to a lot of people come from sort of non-legal backgrounds doing mediation, and it can work at times. And I think may do need a regulation, but you know,
Stuart,
Stuart,
what you're saying is very important. Can you get your signal? There's a problem with the connection.
Oh, sorry, the signal quite bad.
If you can do something about that? What you're saying is very important. What you just spoke about, the deregulation in the community mediation and everything. That's important. But Emily, you have to write Austria there. No one knows 80. What is 80? They don't know 80. You're talking to people.
Austria. Oh, okay. I do. If you think that's better, I can do that. 80 is the
short form for
Austria.
We understand. Yep. Yeah. So Zimena, what is the situation there in Chile?
Yeah, well, in Chile, we are a very young country in mediation matters. It was just by the family law, mediation began in Chile in 2004. So we are a very young country into that. And so now the mediation, you can be a mediator, but you have to have a lot of education at it. In certain areas, for example, family law, business law, health, labor. But on the community level, as you were talking about, I'm working now in a project that we want to have. Chile is divided in 345 small pieces of land. I mean, small communities. And each community has an organization, but it's just one law for the whole country. Mm-hmm. Okay. But so we're trying to have at least one mediation center in each of one of these 345 communities.
But what population do they cater for? Each
we have 17 millions.
So 17 million divided by 345.
Yeah.
So that's still a large number.
Yeah, but Santiago, the capital of Chile, we have 7 millions. So in Chile, we said everything happens in Santiago. Everything. Mm-hmm. It's like.
No, because
99% of the mediators are in Santiago. So.
Look, I'll tell you because we are lucky that way, that we are young in terms of mediation development. So I'm saying this physical structure of community centers that US went through or Australia went through, I don't know about UK, Stuart will tell us later, but if they went through that process of physical structures, we can go straight to the online structure. Yeah. Of course, connectivity is an issue. I'm not saying that connectivity over the country is going to be the best, but luckily India still has better connectivity than most places. So it doesn't have to be Zoom. I'm saying you can even look at phone calls, phone calls, whatever way. I mean, let the person, basically let the mediator decide how he has to do it. If he wants to go physically and meet them, set it up somewhere. But I'm saying investment in physical structures, I don't think we should be looking at that because we need huge numbers. And then we'll say, oh, the government has to set this up. We don't want the government. Let the government do what it's doing. We're not concerned with that. What I want is that, like I said, one person, one mediator, 1,000 people. Let him get, I'm saying at the community level, let him get a retainership. Let everyone give him 50 cents, $1, whatever it might be. At least he gets $1,000. He's got something going for him, $500, $1,000, depending on which country you are in. These are large numbers. So at least he does his other work. I'm saying sorry, I didn't use that. That person, no gender thing. The person has something happening. Then the other work that they develop, Let them, because from the community, when you're out there will be business people in the community, so they'll have some business disputes which they can charge for separately. There will be other kinds of disputes other than community. There'll be family disputes, there'll be a lot of other things which will come out from that, so that can be additional income for the person. So the fact is that there should be some kind of at least a fixed income, because mediators don't have work. All over the world I see that the work is not happening. They've got certifications and qualifications, everything. Emily is a firm believer in qualification, it seems. But Emily, what use has it done to them? We have such a large pool there. So what I want to do is that let's use that large pool all over the world. If Stuart is sitting in UK and he doesn't have some work, he has time available, he's available online, he finds work in Chile or in Austria, who knows?
Yeah, sure.
He's qualified. I mean, we don't want to take off qualification, obviously, I'm not interested in. But is he a good mediator? Does he have a mediator mindset or not? I think he does. That's why he's here. Because
Yeah.
this is a closed group. It's going to be a closed group. Everyone is not welcome, because we want pure mediator mindset people. And I said it's going to be refined. It's going to be refined. I'm not saying that everyone who's part of that. I am saying that these are the people that I want to take forward. I'll see as we go along with the interaction. And with you people, you'll
Yeah.
give your feedback. You'll have some things to say. We'll take it forward. We want a nice, good 1,000 people that when we are in a conversation in our meetings, we should enjoy ourselves. Yes, we will develop mediation also. Yes, Ivana.
When you said a mediation mindset, how would you describe the mindset of a mediator?
That is why this whole evolution of a mediator series, only for that, to understand what is that mindset and what processes it goes through. Because that is why it was done, only for this reason, that what is this mindset? And first of all, is it a stagnant mindset? It's not a stagnant mindset. It's an evolving mindset. What you were when you started off in life, and you were a mediator. I'm saying if you had that, it's not necessary that you had it when you were born. So we are getting that thread. Oh, look, we'll go through about 25, 30. Let's go about 20, through 25, 30 mediators, and then see if there's a common thread somewhere. But I'm saying experiences of life, circumstances can bring out certain things in you. It can happen at any time. And after it happens also, it can evolve. What a person who, what he thought 10 years back in terms of the way maybe you have to deal with people or whatever it is, it can change. And for that individual, it can change. Another person might have to go through the same process and maybe not. So I don't think that's this whole theory. That's why I'm saying let's go beyond theory. There's so much. I mean, there's so many books, and if you see that video, it's a joke. It's become a joke now that I don't read books. It's become a joke now. Because I mean, you can't go. This so one person in the UK, she actually put a comment there. Do you really not read books on LinkedIn? I said I don't, because one, so many you have say 20 people around you, people who you think have the same wavelength as you. They read a book, they will get this. They will, according to me, understand the same thing from that book. So why not in 15 minutes they tell me what they read in 6 hours? So how much time in my life I will save? Can you imagine? So that's the time part. The other thing is that the author might have gone through a certain process of evolution and might not today agree with what they wrote. But you can't go to the author and ask, look, I'm reading your book today. Do you still believe in what you said? You won't. So you'll pick up one stagnant, in the sense, redundant theory of his, which again, his is not for that. It's the person. Okay, there's no gender aspect there. That person today might have changed their total thought process on that. But you will pick up some old book. So that is why let the author be in front of you. Any person who has a thought, let him be in front of you. Debate it right today. Why should you have to pick up something which has already been written earlier? The person evolves every minute. 5 years back, they wrote a book, and today we are still sitting with that book. The author has gone through 50 different levels of evolution, but we don't want to read something that they wrote 5, 10 years back. So that's why this book issue is a problem with me. That's all. We have let the person, whoever has a thought process, let them come to talk to them, debate with them. If you have read something, you should also be debating it. You can't accept it just this the way it is. So that is what I feel. But someone has a different view on books. I'm sure a lot of people have different views on books, because Emily, is that a virtual background or is that your real study?
That's my real study.
So
I
there are
love
books
books.
there. Yes, exactly. I knew this was going to come from her. So please tell us about what I'm saying, and you obviously have a different viewpoint on this.
I think the first thing that comes to my mind from what you said is I don't always have the author in front of me. So there is not always someone I can talk to, because I either can't reach him or her, that person, the author, or he might be dead already. So there is actually no possibility to always get a hold of the author. First thing. Second thing is, I think everything that's written in a book, you always adapt to your own situation, but you may still learn from it depending on what kind of person you are today. And if you go read a book and then read it in 10 years, you might pick up different things. So you can always relearn things from the same book. I like books. That's it.
No, I'm
I
sure.
like books.
I'm sure
I like to read, and I like to improve. I agree that, of course, every minute that you live, you change. But I do also think that some very basic minimum standards regarding the qualifications of mediators do exist. And I think they are relevant to establish an overall worldwide understanding of what mediation can be.
But Emily, I'll get from this point what you said. I'll just exactly from the books and this aspect. I have a little web page. On that web page, I had written that a neutral, independent, unbiased, impartial mediator. I written that. But over time, I kept thinking about this. I said there can be a person, because Ken has also spoken about this. We'll ask him when he comes on, that you might not be neutral, but you still can be unbiased. So that's one interesting thing we can look at. Then other thing is, you might not be independent. You, in a family situation, there might be parties you're related to, both the parties you might be related to. But the fact is that you can still be unbiased and impartial, and you can still be a mediator for them. So now, do we have to keep saying neutral, independent, unbiased, impartial, or is it just unbiased and impartial? So this was a change of mind. So I deleted those 4 words from there. I say I just right now have put it at mediator, because it's supposed to be just a basic thing for people to read. But I'm saying my own thought process in some time has changed on that aspect. I don't want to put it across in all the 4 words. So I'm just saying, for me, so if someone had picked up that and read it earlier, they would have said, no, has to be neutral, has to be independent. But I don't know.
It might be a difference of what kind of, first of all, in what field of, or what branch or sector you're in and you're actually focusing on. Then at the same time, if you would actually need to call that person a mediator in the formal sense. Or I do agree, from what turns out from what you just said, that there are people assisting others to solve their problems without being qualified as mediators, and they might have just the same experience or mindset, as you say, to do that. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Just when it comes to, and I do come from a commercial perspective, so commercial disputes, in that area, I think it's a need to get people to understand that mediation is a formal or a formal informal process.
No, that's why I don't know whether you were there at that time. When I said that, whenever right now when we talk about it, because we are talking about getting the whole concept of mediation and having that culture develop all over the world at the grassroots, at the community level. So in that context, whenever you talk about this formal thing, it's going to become a problem, because those 7 million people, to put them into that whole, whatever you feel is the right way of going about it in terms of qualification, is going to be impossible. So we have to wait for another 200, 300 years to that to happen. But the advantage, like I told you about the Indian context, now when you go for the conciliation part, it specifically says independent and impartial. So standards are laid down for the conciliator. So if you want to go for your commercial disputes and everything, you go under that. Who's stopping you to use that? But the informal process is always happening in commercial disputes also. Everyone doesn't want to need to go through that formal thing. Okay, now we have to appoint this conciliator, and this is the format, this is the agreement, anything. People are doing it all the time. Mediation is a word that you use, and you've gone through this whole structure, this little box that you made for it. But mediation is happening on the road when the accident takes place. One accident takes place, mediation happens right there. People settle that dispute on the road itself between themselves, because in our case, the policeman will come in, he'll become the mediator. Why don't you people settle it between yourselves, kind of thing? Because he doesn't want to get that formal complaint into the system. He would rather have it settled right there. So the mediation happening every day of our life all over. To say that now we'll regulate it, this person who comes in an accident situation comes in and helps the parties, no, you go get your qualification certification, you show that, then you will help us. So I think we have to open our mind to the whole concept. I know there is that focus thing on the commercial part of it, but that's not what I'm talking about. That will flow, that happens. And that like I said, finally the parties are smart enough. They want a person with a certain accreditation or a certain qualification or certain certification. They will find the person, they'll do it. They are spending money. They are wanting, that is an alternative to their other aspects of arbitration or litigation. They know the cost involved there. They're going to spend money here. They will find the right person. It's a market. Like I told you, that hero is very nice thing. That little, it's a 2-3 minute clip, but the way what is put across is exactly what they think the market will decide. And if it's happening in the US, which is such a mature market in terms of mediation, so why do we need to, in a developing market, to even talk about it? I think is not required. But let that academic thing happening. I'm not even saying let that academic exercise happen, everything can happen. I don't think our government is going to fall for that, but let it, those discussions happen. We are here down to, or not, this platform is not going to discuss that at all, whether it should be this way, regulated this way. Not those are enough webinars, and I put them all out. Please have a look at that, have your debates there. Here we have to find out how do we identify that mediator mindset, and how we can get those numbers on one end. On the other end, we have to see why are people not using. So the arbitration aspect that we discussed in that meeting that came up, which was kind of a common thread through every country, was that everyone basically, there is a concept that someone else will decide for us. We are better off. We don't take the decision. That was one thought process that came from there. Why do people prefer arbitration? So we have to reach out. Yeah, Zemen. Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're talking about arbitration and mediation and the skills that you have to have being one or another, I think a lot of people will choose arbitrator because it has a much more education and skills for doing that. So if you think that the mediators, everybody can be a mediator, then no one is.
No,
so why do you have to choose a mediator if he or she doesn't have the skills of a mediator?
No, this is
so then I choose an arbitrator.
No, it's more about the process. That why do people they don't want to use the mediation process, and they prefer the arbitration process. There's one discussion. The other discussions we will have that, because how it started was that basically I said that everyone should go out and have conversations on this with people, and they should ask them, have you heard about mediation? You know what mediation is? Because we started off with me saying that on the golf course, I met some person. There was 2-3 days before that meeting. And I asked the person, because I talked to everyone. I just asked everyone about, do you know about mediation? The person said, oh yeah, that arbitration. And we have these centers and all that. From there, that discussion started. That everyone just believes that it's the same thing. And this happened in every country. People do not know what mediation is. So first of all, we have to go to that basic step. Okay, this is not fantastic meeting host. She's not the meeting host. Lisa, you're not the meeting host here. I'm going to rename you.
Fantastic.
WD, the format is you have to put your name, your city, and your country. Lisa, I'm doing it, Lisa.
I am W, and I live in D, and I'm in Thompson.
No, you have to write it there. We don't want to hear from you.
But that's true, Vikram. I've been mediating for 17 years, and throughout the 17 years, I've been telling people about mediation. And my background is agriculture engineering. And I always said before 17 years ago. He said, well, who are you? I mean, what do you study? I say, agriculture engineering. But then 17 years ago, I said, no, I'm a mediator. Because everybody in Chile knows what agriculture engineering is. Everybody, you don't have to explain it. But when I say, yeah, I'm a mediator, what? What are you? And still people tell me that. What? Mediator? You measure? It's like a mediation. You measure things? What do you do? So yeah,
Exactly.
it's like
Yeah, so I think that's right
takes
now
a
we're
lot
at
of
that
effort.
stage. We have to just go out and have these conversations first. We are at right now. What happens is, of course, in the academic circles, what Emily just said, certifications, qualifications, accreditations. We keep discussing that. Look, at the ground level, what is happening? Are these people? Do they even know what it's all about? So let's start that process. And when I'm saying the 1,000 go to 1,000, the first stage will be to 1,000 to talk to the 1,000 around them first. And out of that, the mediator mindset, the people with that, obviously you keep identifying as you go along. But the important thing is to just have conversations. And the other important thing at the same time, identify the mediator mindset, but also get work for them. They should get work. So which is what my attempt on my end is here, talking to the general counsels and companies and legal heads and everything. And I've got such a good response. You can't believe it. I mean, the first thing is that no one has ever even discussed it. So you start the discussion, then they say, look, this okay, maybe for small value things it can happen, not high value. Then I have to educate them that all over the world high value transactions happen. Luckily, we had Anil from Singapore in that meeting. Anil gave his own personal experience. He said there was a particular mediation he was part of, and there was there was about $200,000 situation there where there was a difference in terms of.
It was originally several million.
Yeah, you talk about it, WD, please. Yes.
Okay. Anil, based out of Singapore, does a lot of commercial disputes in the construction arena. And he shared a success story that one of his clients came and said that he was going to be sued for, I think it was $3 million was the initial number. Might have been $2 million. But he said, and you want to mediate this? And he said, yeah. And he said, well, before we do that, we need to present some type of defense just to be able to open the conversation. So they did that. And then things went back and forth. The number dropped down to 300,000. And then he talked to his client and said, before you bail out on this, I want you to make an offer, because if you don't make an offer, we're going to go to court and I'm going to bill you X amount of time. It's going to take a lot of time.
Yeah, he said $200,000.
It was 200,000. Yeah, it was 200,000.
I'll bill you that much. Yeah.
Yeah, he said I'll bill you this much, but then at the end of it, his client made an offer for 80,000 and it settled. And then the client said, I don't understand why you left so much money on the table. You could have gotten XYZ. And he said, well, the bigger issue is that now you've been able to close this thing out and move, and you're going to tell other people you work with, that's just going to be a generator. It's just going to grow and grow and grow. And that's really it.
Yeah, his concept was I was talking about the mediator mindset, the 1,000 go for 1,000. He said that one client will tell 4 and they will tell 4 and that chain will happen there. So what I said was that, Anil, both our thoughts are the same. We should start a Ponzi scheme, or at least a multi-level marketing scheme like that. The thought process is the same there. But Lisa's coming now. Lisa, yeah, WD.
One of the things I like that Anna was talking about was he said alternate or alternative dispute resolution. We reached a point in the evolution of it that he several years before he had decided to start referring to it as appropriate dispute resolution, and looking at the lens of a dispute and then going, which way do we need to go at this?
Okay.
And
that is academic exercises we will not have here on these aspect. Everyone keeps talking. All webinars, they only talk about this thing. Is it appropriate?
If you let me finish.
Yeah, sorry.
The attorneys that I have in the greater Nashville area, the folks that I'm bumping shoulders with every now and then on the golf course, of course, and other places, they think of alternative dispute resolution as a blow to their income stream.
Yep.
And the majority of them haven't taken the training that the administrative office of the court offers for attorneys. So for them, it's that they're very reluctant to even consider that.
No, that's what I'm saying. Now, in India, we have this law for the last 26 years. And you would expect the lawyers to be the ones to tell people that, look, there's an option like this available and it's as good as a court decree. Why don't you take this option? No one talks about it. Today, I'm saying lawyer, there was a particular interview of a lawyer I just saw. In that saying, he said, no, that there's no law in India for mediation. So what I was telling someone was that I think when we talk about it, we should say the potato and potato thing. Say you want to make a mashed potato, but I don't have potatoes, I have a potato, so I can't make it. You have potato, then you make it. Yeah, it doesn't matter. The end result is you want to have that particular dish. So we have the ingredients and everything lying there, but people are just telling everyone that, look, this doesn't exist. That if there is a formal structure available, use it. If you don't want the formal structure, go for the informal structure. People in countries, there is no formal structure available. People are talking about it today. Med Arb is a discussion that you're having in the worldwide today. Med Arb is a concept in that 26-year-old act that we have. It says it is the arbitrator's duty to see that the matter, if they can be settled, the parties should settle it through mediation, conciliation, or any other means. It's provided in that law that many years back. So in that case, if the parties go for mediation, they can agree to whatever they settle comes back to the arbitrator and a consent award is passed. It's available. The process is available there. So these are things that is in terms of statute is already there. And I put that link of the act also now on that little web page that I have. So I don't have too much information there, but we have 4 other people here who've not even read it. Lisa, have you seen it?
Which,
My
what
web
you're
page,
talking about?
that one little web
Yes, okay.
page that come off it.
I've seen it's not a little one, it's very long.
Please, nothing.
It's
You have to
your
keep
webpage is the
scrolling
greatest
and
works of
scrolling
Three
and
literature.
scrolling.
You've got a font of 6. I bought a larger monitor just because of your webpage.
That's right. We need a really long monitor.
No, I tell you what. Again, let me repeat. Let me tell you this. Or maybe this is something which let it get recorded. Why is it one page? Because I want everyone to be on the same page in terms of mediation. That's why it's only one page. Okay.
Nice.
So you would have reached your goal when you shorten your page, right? Because we'll
Exactly.
not only be on the same page, but we won't be on the long page. We'll be on the short page.
Yeah, we should start shortening the page. We should take out, like, there is, of course, when I start there, I talk about dispute resolution. I say, party, you should sit together and you should settle your dispute. You should, whatever, you should negotiate, you should keep your ego aside, everything. So I'm saying if they do that and they only have that dispute resolution, they settle it themselves, everything goes out of the picture. We don't need mediation, we don't need anything. Parties just should not need to go out to a third party. They should just settle it. I'm saying that. So if that page should just come to that dispute, settle it within yourselves. Open
But
out.
in getting to the population, getting the word out to the people that would use a mediator or might use a mediator, that information campaign is tough to do. And the individual level, I have multiple opportunities in my military connection and then the other side. But when you talk to people about, avoidance, negotiation, mediation, arbitration, litigation, power, when you talk about that, they look at you like a pig looking at a watch.
Exactly.
And then when I ask other questions like, well, in your house, how did you figure that out? How did you solve things? It's like, well, my mom comes from a family where they just explode. It's nuclear. It's on. And the dad side of the family is avoidance, run away. And that's how they've gotten. They don't know mediation, arbitration. They know litigation pretty well.
So that
And they
means a
know it's
lot of
gonna cost them.
education, a lot of education which has to happen. We have to, that's what I'm saying. We have to have these conversations because we can't live in our little bubble. Like Emily is saying that, okay, we talk about the commercial thing and structure and everything, but we have to open out. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about getting down to the last man on the chain, educating that person, because if that culture starts from there, then it will go into commercial transactions, it'll go into between countries, it can go everywhere, because the same person who grows up in that environment will see that as the option. That is the option. They're not even looking at any other option. So I'm not saying it's happening today. Are we laying the foundation for the next 10 years? Maybe. Let it happen in 10 years. What's the hurry? I'm saying if this is 26 years, we've had an act in our statute books. What is 10 years? No problem. So 1,000 get to 1,000, I think, is what I'm looking at. What do you think, Emily? Is it difficult? would you be able to get 1,000 people whom you feel have the mediator mindset over the next, what, maybe 2 years, maybe not 10, 2?
Probably.
Probably not, although it might be difficult. I don't know. Did you say Emily or Lisa?
Yes, Emily. Lisa will
Lisa.
come to. Lisa has a lot. She has lots to say. After that, we'll all shut up and she'll be the one talking.
I'm so sorry. I have to leave soon. It's just really, it just popped up my mind now that you said what you said, is that about 2 years ago, I talked at the International Mediation Symposium in Salzburg in Austria. And I had a discussion there with some of the other participants on the mindset and how people resolve their disputes. And we agreed finally that we actually would need to start at kindergarten.
Yes.
At the kindergarten level.
Absolutely.
To change our way of solving disputes, meaning two people going at first, if they're fighting, to the kindergarten teacher and asking for help because he or she did something wrong.
Absolutely.
And we would actually need to train the kindergarten teachers there to solve disputes differently. And there is one very good book written by a German author. It's I think it's called The Language of the Giraffes. Or something like that.
Okay, just
and it tells you
one second before you go there. Before you go there, please read this. This is on that web page. Just read this. This is on. Have a look at it. This is exactly what you said. This is all there, but you didn't read it once also. So all that effort that I put through, no one reads it.
I will. I just need to leave now. I read it today.
No, we have to finish what you were saying.
I read it about the children.
Emily, you have to finish what you were saying. I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, it's actually, yes, that we need to start at kindergarten level to change the system of going to
you were talking about that story.
Person instead of like doing it with the other person together to solve the problem. This being said, thank you for the discussion. Thank you, Vikram, for organizing it. It was lovely. And I just need to go now. I'm so sorry.
And are you coming tomorrow for that thing, that evolution of a mediator episode?
I think I will watch it online afterwards.
Perfect.
As you know, Saturdays are always difficult for me to manage.
You can be with your children and just listen to it. There's no issue.
I learned doing two things at a time is difficult because you don't do anything really good.
No, but Emily, this goes against what you were saying. You want to start with the children and you don't want them involved in the discussion. They should be the ones who should be sitting in that discussion. You should be doing other things. So how old are they?
Probably I should do that.
How old are they?
She's 4.
So that means this is the right age. Exactly what you just said, that they have to start at that age and you want to keep them out of the discussion. Please get her in through this discussion also.
I will try to. Let's see how she wakes up tomorrow.
Okay. All
anyway,
right.
bye.
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 Okay, WD,
Bye,
you're making me smile with your teddy bear.
WD wants to start with that. Okay.
No, it's wonderful. We all need a teddy bear or a toy. That's my thing. You know,
Okay,
this isn't
first of
just
all,
a teddy bear. This is algae bear. This is a mental health first aid.
Okay, I think you guys can have your discussion later. These are the important thing is
my teddy bear is
look at this.
Alfie.
I'm gonna look at this. These guys want to discuss this when we have such larger
and my
issues.
teddy bear saved my life. So I'm really, I have Alfie. I had to hold him in order to get up.
TMI.
Okay, now listen to me. What I'm saying is that we have someone for Chile. Chile, she's here. The pronunciations I might not get. She said Chile. We always have been saying Chile. We are going to say Chile. Chile?
Yeah, Chile.
Okay, so she's from Chile.
I'd like to ask her a question.
Please.
Is it?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
How do I pronounce your name?
Jimena Regules.
Jimena. Okay, Jimena.
Regules.
Regules.
Yeah. The question it relates to what Emily had opened the door on and what they're trying to do in the United States. In Chile, do they have what we call in the U.S. peer-to-peer mediation that's taught or trying to be taught in the school system for children? Is there a mediation dispute training done in schools for kids in Chile?
It is, but it's really, really small. I think it's like in 1% of the schools they're trying to teach something about scholar mediation. Yeah, but well, that's a start.
It's
A
hard
few
to break
years
in.
ago, it was nothing, so we're starting. Yeah.
No, but
Yeah.
in the US, they have a very structured approach to this, because I was just in that last meeting, if you didn't have a look at that, but what I was discussing was that on Eventbrite, I was looking at all the events in relation to mediation. So I found one particular event and I went for it. What it was one, they have something called the Independent School District. So this was the Humble Independent School District, which is humbleisd.net. So they were having a little meeting for the parents to sensitize them on mediation. And I landed up there. And it was very interesting to see that actually down to that level, that is where you have to reach, down to sensitizing parents. Then you have to also take the children through it. The children will then influence in the community, the parents and everything. So the culture develops, which is what I've written in that. You people are not willing to read one paragraph also on my web page, which is sad. But this is what I'm saying there. So I think that when I saw that, I think Lisa would tell us more about what that structure is. Lisa, what is that structure in terms of starting grassroots level?
No, I mean, okay, so there's a lot happening in the schools, but at one point we had funding for that. So it does take funding, but doing peer mediation for the parents. So you get the parents also, but peer mediation for the students. So they learn mediation and they're more likely to call a mediator if they themselves have learned mediation in school.
But how does it work?
So,
Take us through the process. How does it happen in the school level? A little bit.
at the school level, the students are identified that may be interested in mediation, and the teachers identified those students that might be best to be mediators.
Okay, so the mediator
So they're
mindset.
already identifying your mediator
Okay, damn
mindset
good,
for
damn
you.
good, damn good. Okay, so that process is there.
So identifying that in the young children, and then teaching them mediation skills, and then having them mediate with one another. And so that process is going on in a lot of schools. And then they also do restorative justice. So there's also circles going on with students. It helps a lot with bullying and with other things. And they get a lot of disputes, especially in school. In the US, it's girlfriend, boyfriend, he said, she said, all of the rumors, they're able to mediate those and talk about it. It's amazing how it changes them, because when you see a peer mediation and they start to understand, gee, I was listening to rumors, I didn't really know, how you felt. I like doing the peer mediation training with them because they learn a lot, and you can do some exercises to help them become more self-aware. And that self-awareness is also key to helping them be better mediators later on.
Okay, tell me, Lisa.
So,
Lisa, are videos available of all this? Can't we just put them in the playlist on my channel?
Actually,
Can you send me those links? Can you send me links? I'll put them. I'll make a playlist on peer mediation. And let's just put these videos down. Let's put them down, because I'm saying what is already there. Why should we duplicate that work? People have already done that. But definitely.
And if you look at it too, and I don't want to, things like, for instance, customer service. And a lot of people don't know this, but customer service in the US, they've taught a lot of the same mediation techniques and listening techniques. Managers learn it, but they don't call it conflict resolution. They don't know that's what they're learning. That's the difference.
Yeah.
And I think that if there was an awareness that it was the same thing, there would open up to it. I could see every company having a dispute resolution section.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's what I've been saying.
This section should be implanted in every company or every corporation to handle internal and external disputes.
No, I'll tell you what I've been saying. What I'm saying
I
is
disagree with that.
Okay, we'll
Why do you disagree?
Disagreements later.
Oh, good.
Later.
No, I need a
later.
disagreement.
I just want one. No, I'm making a point on this workplace thing and all that you were saying. What I was saying that you should have, like I was saying, on every project, every contract. Similarly, every workplace should have a mediator, a total independent third party, which doesn't not part of the formal hierarchy of the company. So everyone has an option. It's like a mediator to call. and they have whatever they try to settle it through the informal process first. Let them go through that so they can have. Now the ombudsman concept that you have in the US is that independent person who doesn't make any decisions, and is also totally independent, only gives whatever certain suggestions and everything to the board. But what happened in India was that ombudsman concept went to a different direction. The ombudsman tries to get a settlement done, but if the settlement doesn't go through, actually passes an order. So he becomes an arbitrator after that, which according to me is the worst thing that could have happened to that concept. He should have been a pure facilitator or a mediator, whatever you want to call the person. But it has gone to that extent. So now that word I can't use, because I've been circulating. There's this ombudsman association in the US, so I've been circulating their little leaflet, which talks about what an ombudsman does, which totally goes against what is happening here. So this is a problem with words. That's why I'm saying let's not use those words. Whatever words you want to use, I mean, use simple word, whatever. But finally, we need that person. So finally, it's that individual whom that organization has trust in, or whatever, whom can be used. Yes, WD. Sorry, please.
No, he was
Oh.
going to disagree with me. I need that.
Yep. I
Well-
don't need that. I want only agreements, no disagreements.
No,
Well, then I'll
no,
say
no, no.
I actually partially agree, but having the one size fits all is it's counter to what some of the other people have said in some of the other sessions that we've had. I forget who said it. I remember his face. I don't remember his name, but he was talking about mediation in his mind is less of a profession and more of a cultural approach.
Yep.
And that now I'm gonna do. It's analogous to when I'm on a trauma team. I'm a critical care registered nurse, and we've got a 5-person team. And when a casualty comes in off the battlefield, I might be the airway guy. This might be the compression guy. That's the medication person. And then one person in charge calling things. Now, that's for that exchange. When another casualty comes in, we rotate. So imagine having a band with 5 instruments. Everybody plays all 5 instruments. I think that mediation in terms of a cultural approach in the business setting, in some businesses, could be, as Vikram was saying, and why we're here, to identify those with the mediator mindset. Some people have more of an affinity and capability just from their personality. And if you're in the business, in the company, or in an Army unit, and you know who those personalities are, they could occupy that role for that contract agreement. They go in, and I don't know if you've ever heard of the 10th man, but that's someone who comes in with the whole idea that they're just going to call out things and promote dialogue. 10th man comes from the Army from like 20 years ago, but I don't know that throwing money and people into a mediation section at the Corvette plant here in Bowling Green that, you know, employs a lot of people, I don't know that their bottom end, they would want to do that, but they would be open to taking the training to identify people who would be successful at using that mediation cultural approach.
So we
WD,
did this for the state of Ohio, WD. So it's like what you said. So for the state of Ohio, we had the contract to create the mediation section for all of their personnel. And the way it works is mediators were, in the mediator mindset, identified from employees. So employees were the ones who became the mediators. The section of human resources, the only function that they had was take in requests for mediation and assign mediators from the general population. So it was working something like you said, but you know, because it's those mediators who are already employees, they should be the mediators.
But I
And
think
it's not about, but the section itself is just to do the boring paperwork, kind of moving it through, because that has to be done.
no, but I
That's
think
also a government example, though. And
no,
the
but these are
government
the important
who
things.
uses taxpayer
WD,
money, they do all
WD.
kinds of stuff.
WD, the important part is that the encouraging aspect is that in the schools, there is a process which is already there, which I think needs to, the whole concept, the fact has to go out to the world, that this thing actually starts there. Identification of the person, the teacher is the best person, maybe, or the school, the kids, everyone is the best people to see who has that mindset. I think we have to get out there and find the person from that end. At what age, but Lisa, what age do you identify?
You start, we train kids for peer mediation starting in 4th grade from 10
Okay, so 10 on.
10 years old.
And the identification also happens about that age only.
Yeah. And I mean, it can be younger, but usually 10 is about the right age.
Perfect.
But
Let me
younger
offer-
children should be should be exposed.
Mhm.
Let me offer this. That might be happening in Cincinnati. It's not happening in my area at all. They are really, they're too busy juggling
The
other
state
things.
of Ohio
But I think
provided
to
the
make the
funding.
biggest impact, if I was right, but what I'm saying is, for me, if I was trying to make the biggest impact, it would be to go at the state level of education and the national level of education and say this could be part of. Because in Warren County, when I talked to the superintendent, not interested. And I propose, it's working with the school counselor and teachers and things like that. They're like, we're not prepared to do anything extra right now. We're struggling with
let me
COVID.
tell you, out here, this on my platform, we are never going to talk about what the government can do, what funding can come in. We will never talk about it because those processes, that bureaucracy, we can't fight against. That's a different world. Again, a different world. What we are trying to do is reach that particular teacher directly or indirectly, whatever way. Those 1,000 will reach the 1,000 kind of thing. That
Yeah.
teacher itself will give you the feedback. You're now talking about one person sitting in a community who is dealing with a certain number of schools, whatever, and is in touch with those schools, is in touch with those teachers, and telling them, look, if you identify someone, please let me know, so that at least we will take that person forward. That person can be, that little kid can be part of whatever little dispute resolution concept that they might have at the community level for children. So
We have different dreams.
right. So anyway, because all those things have to happen at the same time. Like I said, courts
Yeah.
have the mediation centers, but I have nothing to do with that. So let that happen separately. There's no issue with that. Everything has to happen together, but we have to specialize in what. So that's why I removed the word conflict also from my webpage. Let the conflict resolution aspect happen. There are a lot of people doing it, and a lot of ways to do it. So we are just now, right now, if we can in some way help people resolve disputes which are already there, existing, or which happen, let's look at that. I'm looking at that. But WD, when you do it, you can, obviously there's no such, it's not like a product, it's not Amway that you have to take that product and take it. It might be multi-level marketing, but that product is going to be different because you will be different, the way you go about it, whatever. So there's no such, we're not doing it under any one particular this product kind of thing, but we take it as you'd like.
No, I'm not thinking of siloing my efforts and only trying to go through the bureaucratic arm of the county and the state and the national, but there is room for that to go in. But at the school level, you still have to have approval
No,
to present.
I say no. Look at it
Yeah.
from this perspective. That teacher is part of a community. So you are not talking to that teacher as part of the school. You're talking about to that teacher as part of the community. That
Mhm.
child is part of the community. So you're talking to that child as part of that community, not as a student of that school. So let's not get the structures out of our head. Those structures exist. And if you try to go into that discussion, WD, you have limited number of hours in a day. I would rather see you on the golf course rather than sitting with some government official and trying to explain to him that we need to do this. Why should you waste your time? Play 9 holes at least, right? What is the? I mean, so let's not go into anything where we don't have control over.
You have this thought that I'm going to physically go there and do those types of things. I'm thinking more of a messaging campaign.
Yeah.
That doesn't take that much. I think, at least for where I'm at, and I can't speak to Lisa in the Dayton, Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio area. Where I'm at, I'm in an area where some of the ways to get information out is through the churches. Easier to get through the churches than through the schools.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's
this
true.
church is also part of a
Churches are
community.
more open to having it than the school
No, but I'm
teachers
That's
saying again
very
that
true, and
WD,
you
what I'm
should
saying
do
is
that
no.
because they
One
will
sec.
embrace it.
No, what I'm
That's a
saying
good.
is that
That's
the
a good
church is
approach.
also part of the community. So there are people in that church. So you're talking to those people as the community, not the structure of the church. or any other institution, because that institution already exists. They are already
That's what
doing
I
things.
mean.
Yeah, they're already doing it for their community, that little community that they've created. They're already doing it. You have to look at the larger community, which has a church, which has a school, which has this, which has that. So because you're bringing people together, so that doesn't matter what institution they might be part of or whatever. So because those are then, otherwise if you say only this structure is required, then you have to talk to that structure, and then that structure has its own issues. What is the communication you can have? What kind of way you can put it across? We don't want to get into those discussions.
Well, it's interesting. I looked at the
So-
churches in my town, and the Unitarian
Vikram,
Unilateral Church
Jimenez?
actually has a mediation section.
Okay, Lisa has something to say.
Jimenez, I don't know how to say your name right. Ximena has to go.
Yeah,
Jimena.
I have to go. So
Jimena.
yeah,
Oh,
I hope to see you tomorrow.
Okay, you want to go? Lisa wants to go. Both of you want to go.
No, she has to
No,
go, and I was just
I
pointing
need to
it
go.
out.
So
Okay,
yeah.
so Jimena, I will send you the invitation for tomorrow, and we'll see
yeah,
you
I
there.
hope to go. It will be 3 o'clock in the morning for me, so I will try to be.
Why will
there.
it be 3 o'clock? No. We've kept
Because
the
you can't
time.
move.
8 hours and a half of difference.
One sec. Just check this out, because we kept the time in such a manner, because the last time it was much earlier. I think you've got
Yeah,
maybe got the
12:30.
time wrong. Just check the time.
No, we have with Chile, Vikram, we have 8.5 hours of difference. 8
Between whom? Between GMT and you?
with Delhi, New Delhi, and
No, no.
Chile.
No, but we have 2:30 p.m. GMT or 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. 8 p.m. So take it from there.
8. Okay, 8 p.m. Yeah,
Yeah,
I thought it was the Indian time zone.
that's what I'm saying. That no one reads anything that I put out. No one reads anything. I mean, simple. This was
You don't
little
read books.
post. One little post which said, "Look, this is how." That's why I said don't read, because that little post also don't read properly, and people read books. How much will come out from that?
You need a bigger font and then put it in red.
In the post,
You said-
Just for
LinkedIn
the
doesn't give you
time.
anything else. LinkedIn doesn't give you more than that font. But let's just
Yeah.
confirm
Good
this.
to see
Wait,
you.
well, let's go.
Very good
Wait
to
a minute.
see you.
Hemant,
Okay,
let me. I'm just checking online, just checking the daytime thing. Let's get this thing out.
It should be, how much difference are you from
11:30
Eastern?
a.m. Hemant,
Yes.
11:30 a.m. It's 11:30 in the morning for you.
11:30 p.m. Okay,
AM,
I'll be there.
AM.
So
11:30
AM.
morning.
Yeah. AM. Yeah,
It's
we
a
have
date.
8 hours. Okay,
Oof.
perfect. So see you tomorrow.
See you.
Thank
Bye.
you for the.
I'll send you the invitation. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Bye. So Karen, we were having this discussion. Karen, are
And
you there?
Karen is here. Hi, Karen.
Hi,
We were
Karen.
talking about, Karen, what we were talking about was that peer mediation. In the US, at least you have a structure there. And that structure, if there's a lot of learning from there, which we can take to other parts of the world. So what is your experience with that?
I'm working and listening.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, better.
Okay. I'm working and listening at the same time. So I
Yeah.
have
So anything on the peer mediation aspect? Any experience on that?
In
I have
schools.
not in schools. No, I have not.
Okay, so what we were talking about was that the whole culture of mediation has to obviously start from the grassroots, from the children. So how do we, because what Lisa said was that there is in certain states a whole structure where the teachers identify those children with the mediator mindset, and then they take them forward, which sounded very interesting. So we were looking at how, I was telling her that if there's already some kind of a tutorial or something available, or we should find those and then put them in the playlist that I have on my channel. So at least people start, at least whatever little training has to happen, at least something is available. So Lisa is going to find out. Lisa, you'll send some links?
I will send it. I have to discover myself because I know who uses it. I don't directly do it myself, but I'll find out.
So which means I think that at least for to a certain extent, we found out where do we start. I mean, this is in terms of the long term, because if those children at 10 you start today, when in 10 years they'll be 20, we'll have so many children out there who actually have that mindset and that culture which they will bring in. I think not a bad thing. Let's start with that on one end, and that's on one end, but that is 10 years. But to identify the other age groups, other people, that process has to keep happening. So any thoughts on that?
And we start in middle school?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So every stage, But no, I'll tell you, Karen, I don't know whether you had entered by then. The discussion that was really happening was that, okay, I mean, you want to identify the processes are available there. Everything, I mean, we have structures available, but how do we actually get them to get that experience, real kind of experience? Do we, I mean, at school levels, do you have to have little dispute resolution kind of centers or whatever you might call them? How do you actually have some real experiences that they need to get? Because identification is okay, but next stage also, how do we take that forward? I think, WD, anything on that?
No.
Lisa,
Well,
you're the expert.
Why not a living room conversation? You know, you were saying reach out to 1,000 people, but why not having a living room conversation? So I'm talking about informal conversation, just bringing people in to talk about it and see where they are and inviting them using that kind of approach, welcoming and inviting them to a discussion about mediation so that they become aware about it.
No, so that's what I'm saying. Now, on one end, you are doing that. Those discussions you're happening to you create the awareness. On the other end, you're identifying the mediator mindset. But now you have to actually put it into place where a dispute has to be resolved. And the person has to have experience on that, on real situations. Because this whole concept of training and everything, like I told you, that if the person has the mediator mindset, they already know. Is you're just putting theory into their mindset. They
Mhm.
know. In terms of, say, what is bias, you can go on and talk about being unbiased. You can go through, you can give a person 5,000 years of lectures, but you can't make the person unbiased. But if the person is unbiased, then you can put some theory into the thing, into the concept. Okay, this is what being unbiased is, whatever it might be. I don't know, these theories you people are better at, but I'm just saying that those theories, we don't need those names and these particular words for them. That is not required for a person with that mindset. But now we also want to give them the exposure to the actual process. So how does that happen?
I think you touched on it earlier that there's already hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of videos that have already been done that are out there in the e-universe. And when we look at those things and we see that it's been up for a year and 4 people have looked at it, and it's really great information, we have to, in the grassroots campaign in Bowling Green, Kentucky, I think that being able to get a foothold in my community through churches and different civil action groups and even some of the nonprofits and places, to just give them the website to go to, and maybe it's your website, where we have a place to go. It might even, but it is, in wearing my special operations hat for 14 years in 25 countries. At the grassroots level, it is high touch, low tech. It's being able to direct people to, in some of the third world countries, we used to just give out free radios that had a hand crank. And then it had different times of day in their local zone. And at 8 a.m. was the public health message for half an hour. And at noon was education. And we would do broadcast media.
No, I do look.
It's high
This
touch,
is
low tech.
no. This is about what you're talking about. In terms of the tutorials, in terms all those issues, those that aspect. There's lots available. That's not a problem. But I'm saying in terms of real life experiences, what I said, no, like this mock mediations and these
Yeah, I
mediation
don't like that.
competitions and everything. We have that part of it. We do have to, I mean, move away from. We have to actually give them that real life experience. So to be able to put that into place where these centers exist, where, say, Lisa is there now. Lisa is part of these centers and doing this kind of work. Now she's available there, but she is sitting at the back and she's actually letting these children do whatever, try to resolve things, but still intervening when she thinks it's required. And there's no such standard. WD will do it in his own way. Karen will do in her own way. There is no such format that you have to give them, because if you have the mindset, you know how to go about it. But we want to give them that real experience so that it can be online. I'm saying it can be online, but it doesn't have to. There's no physical structure that they have to go to. But can we develop those? These are, can you say, supposing you develop a little platform. So you have this online platform where anyone who has a dispute, a kid, two children have a dispute, they send you a message saying, look, we have a dispute. So you say, okay, you log in, I'll give you the login, I'll give you the Zoom ID, the link, both of you log in. But it is also this thing is going to go live. You have to explain to them. There is no confidentiality on this. This will go live. So your YouTube channel is live. And so when these kids come to you and you help them resolve it, that part of it is seen by people all over the world. So many such YouTube channels all over. Karen will have her own. WD will have her own, his own. So everyone is at least actually whatever they're doing is not just confined to that room, because the room part of it and that confidentiality is maybe
The
required in
problem
certain.
with it is that for people to talk about something that is so personal to them, that's what confidentiality was supposed to do.
No,
To
we're not
give
saying that
people
all
the
the matters.
comfort and safety,
No,
because
I
they're
think
not going to come and some youth is not going to come in and say, hey, you know, I was having problems with my drugs this morning, and, you know, or
this is where we
something
go.
they've
This
done
is where I only.
illegally, you know, that
No, Lisa,
they're
I'll tell
supposed
you,
to have a
this is where we
safety
go
net.
wrong. This is where we go wrong. We start thinking of something which is not fitting into the concept. I'm saying those issues where this confidentiality is not a problem, the person can do away with it. We only need one out of the 1 million disputes which happen in Cincinnati. We just need that one to come to you. That
The right
other,
case.
yeah, that's it. The one that the person said not an issue, because they're also doing it for the good of people in general. People also have some things that they want to do for the world. So only for those disputes, how many can you sit and do? How many hours of work can you do? You have a limited number of
I
time.
wouldn't do it. I would not do something public.
If the parties say no, we want it public, then
No, I won't do it because I think that people need that feeling of safety, and you don't know what's going to come up in a mediation.
this
May seem like one thing, but in so many mediations, other things come up, and I don't want it to be a public display where something would happen.
but
And
this is
then I
exactly
would be responsible as the mediator because I allowed that to
no,
happen.
what
Nope,
kind of
I
thing.
won't do
See,
it.
look, like this meeting is
I
right now live on YouTube. You could be saying
Mhm.
anything. You could be, I
Let
don't know. I
me
don't know whether you're going to abuse
I
me next.
won't do a live
hold
mediation.
time
I
out.
We have
will
Let
to
me
do
not
jump
do
in.
it.
Time out. Let me
Okay,
jump in.
I gotta go because now you're going in a direction I'm not going in.
Well, do you not want to hear what I'm going to say?
At least listen to
Oh, I
WD,
do,
Lisa.
except that I
Okay.
have actually promised someone that I would have a conversation with them.
What I was going to say was, I think that it takes the right case and the right parties, and that there is definitely an opportunity to do something like that. And I think that that has got to be better than the craptastic salad of mock mediation. Um,
Yep.
I think that, and I also think that having a 9-year-old and a 13-year-old, they are much more open
Yep.
to doing things online, and with reckless abandon. Sorry, we have to put filters in and say you don't ever want to do that. But I think that children and the youth are more open to being part of the global community than we are, with the caveat that if you're going to have the right case and all, say, if something's very personal, you may not want to put this out. So measure your words. But I think that there is a case, and I think Vikram's on point. We only need one, because once we get one and it's hosted and it's, immortalized on the web, then you could push that. I actually, in the chat box, I did connect, dropped a link for one of the school systems that has a peer-to-peer mediation. And when you look at, it's a web page from the school, and at the bottom, they've got a little YouTube video where students are explaining exactly what that is. And it's just brilliant,
Not bad.
but
Not
it's
bad.
not ubiquitous. I want to hear from Karen, because Karen, I'm just meeting you. What do you think about all this stuff that we're talking about? I grew up in Augusta, Georgia. I'm very familiar with Atlanta. It's one of my favorite cities. What's it like where you're at? And what do you think about what we're talking about?
I'm originally from New York, and I moved
Ah.
to Georgia in 2001. So I'm a transplant.
Uh-huh.
I am kind of on the lines with Lisa, not kind of. I won't feel comfortable with uh, mediation on YouTube. If you have a child who is 9 or 10, would you not need permission from a parent to, or some kind of release to put that information
Definitely,
on
definitely.
YouTube?
No, but that
Yeah.
aspect will
Oh, that'd
definitely be
have to
looked
be.
at. No, definitely. All those things we just read out at the first stage of discussion. It
Right.
might not be this. It could be another kind of matter. Could be some other community dispute. Could be a wall between neighbors. it doesn't have to. When the concept is the whole process of mediation, people are going through a certain mock mediation kind of thing that they see, maybe certain videos online, which are very far removed from real life because there are scripts given to people, and the script is limited. So
Well, Vikram, why are we so anchored to having it be live in out of respect to what Karen and Lisa talked about the reservations? If we find the right case with the right parties and the parents and whatever else, everything sets up correctly, what's wrong with recording it and then
No
when
problem.
you find out
Perfect.
it's the right fit,
Absolutely.
then you're reducing some of the risk of it
Absolutely.
being on the web and being the
No, no, I
viral
totally agree
moment.
with you. Totally agree with you. It doesn't have to go live. It can actually be recorded, and then the parties, the parents, the children. If I mean, you're talking about children's situation. I'm not even talking about children's situation. It could be any situation. The fact is that the real life, Lisa has her experience. That experience should not be confined to a room which no one ever has access to, where there are people sitting there, because that mediator mindset you might identify, but you have to give them the right direction with the right people. So these people that I have part of this, or the people that you will have part of your thousand, those people are people whose work needs to go out. People should see it. Why should all that experience that Lisa have go confined to that one party or two? There's these parties that sit in with her in that one mediation. We want that out. People should see what the whole process is all about. And everyone's process is unique. You will do it in a very different manner. So there's so
So
many.
Karen, what do you think about what I said?
I hear what you're saying, but I still don't feel comfortable
Uh-huh.
recording that. I sometimes people get in their emotions and get caught up, and I don't want it to become maybe I don't know, a Jerry Springer show. I'm just using a
Yeah,
wild
my
example.
mediations would be a Jerry Springer show.
Most of my juvenile violent offender cases are wrapped in emotion, and there's a skewed power base. Sometimes it's more challenging than most of the other mediations that I'm in. I hear what you're saying.
And I just don't want it to become one of those what you see on TV kind of. And it'll take away from my credibility, I feel. Well, that's just my thoughts.
They had the TV show. They've tried two or three times to have television shows based on mediators. They never work. They
Well, they're
never
poor writing.
capture.
Yeah, exactly. Deputy, she
Yeah,
thinks
Almost
that
I don't know.
Legal.
Did you
Remember
see
that one?
them? Like the,
And
it's
Almost
okay.
where
Legal
is
was
this all
unbelievably
about?
Okay,
bad.
but at the same time, you should also look at the fact that Lisa is in a generation which is not a social media. They don't live their lives in social media. For them, social media will be different. For her, it will be different the way she looks at it. And not a problem. We have to work around the whole thing. So we have to then get the view of the people that she thinks will have a problem with it. So let's take their view, because this is her view based on her years of experience in the world. But maybe things have changed in the world, things have changed outside. Maybe we talk to
I
those people.
take exception with that because I happen to be pretty linked in
No,
socially
no. I'm
in
not talking about
social
that.
media.
No,
So
not at all.
I may be of that age, but I'm pretty
No,
linked
I'm not
in.
talking about the social media aspect. I'm saying maybe you think that people might have a problem with it. Let's talk to those people. If they don't, let's. No, I'm
They
just
may
saying let's.
not have a problem with
No.
it,
We
but
don't have
I
to
would.
decide for anyone.
It's
We don't.
not about what they
No, we
would do.
don't
It's
just
about
need
what
Lisa.
my ethics are and
Lisa
my
is
own
not the only
ethical.
person. Lisa is not the only person. She said, "I don't want to do it. Don't do it." You're not the only
I
person out
won't.
there.
That's what I
Exactly.
said.
It's not about you. It's about if you want to be
Well,
part of my show. My show says I want to do it. You don't want to be part of it. You
You
just
do
have to
it, but
say,
I wouldn't do
"Oh, no,
it.
what
that's
I
your
want to get
in
at,
your 1,000. You don't have to do it. That's your 1,000. In
Okay,
my
what
1,000,
I
I think
that's
this is where
good
people
because
go.
I'm not
Meetings go
going
wrong. This
to.
is my show. Only what I think I need to do, I will do. Lisa might not agree
Then
with it.
you
I
do
don't
it.
have to make you agree with it. That's what I'm trying to do. Is very different. The structure is very different. So I don't even need the negative part of it, but I need your negative inputs. Yes, but the negativity part of it is not required because we are out there having conversations. We are going to ask people, 20,000 other people, whether what they think about it. It's going to move with my direction, the way I look at it. So similarly, you will do it in your 1,000. That how do you want to go about it? You will not want to. You don't want to do certain thing, not do it. So that is the way it's going to progress. So it's not an organization. There's no board of people who sit. That's the difference between what I'm doing and what generally happens. Nothing like that. If you were sitting in a board meeting, Lisa would have said, "No, I don't like the idea. Scrap it." not required. You scrap your idea. You can not do anything that you want. Vikram
I
is
never
good.
said to scrap it. I said I would not do it.
I know
I
what
was
I'm trying to say
very
is
clear.
no, absolutely. But what we need
Let
is
me
some
advocate
positive
for
inputs, not negative inputs. We need positive inputs. So
Let
that is
me
what I want.
advocate for something.
So
'Cause
are there any
I
positive things? There was this one second, WD, I'll just tell you. There were these three kids who came, the college kids. We were discussing exactly the same thing I was discussing with them. So the girl started with a negative. I said, you are not in this, whatever sentences that you will now give, don't give any negative. She couldn't say anything because everything for her conversation was in the negatives. So then slowly they changed. I explained to them the positives, so talk about positive. So she actually did that. So conversations can change. We'll do that. So yeah, WD, sorry, please.
well, in these trauma teams that I'm part of in Special Forces, we wear headsets and we go into training environments where you're getting a stress test where you've got a mannequin, the $250,000 mannequin, and everything you're doing is being recorded. There's an after action where we review it. And then we also wear the same headset on the battlefield, right down the road from where the stuff's happening. And those things are, secured and whatnot. They don't get out. Sometimes there are legal things on, was there a barrier to access to care? And I'm not getting into that, but I'm not against the same technique with the right parties in mediation when they are going in and they know this is being recorded. And I know about the Hawthorne effect, where when you know you're being watched, you perform a certain way. So I get that as a risk, but I also see that when it's all said and done, it's the video product that gets consented to at the end. And then is it worth having, or do we discard it and go to the next one?
Absolutely.
So
That's
just
exactly.
because you do it doesn't mean you got to use it.
Absolutely.
But I've learned a lot from watching, trauma docs, trauma nurses, Green Beret medics, SEAL medics, watching the videos that they had on their helmet cams in the real world. I went, ooh, I'll never do that. I'm going to try to avoid this, but I'm going to do that. So I see it as a learning value that with the right setup trumps mock mediation and endless YouTube videos and sitting in a conference room doing PowerPoint.
Yep. Actually, this is really what I was saying. Perfect. So no inputs on that. Karen is not giving any inputs. Karen, we are waiting to hear from you. So many times WD is also trying to get you into the conversation. Please.
I'm hearing everybody's saying that works for you. I don't feel that will work.
Yeah. No, that topic is gone. No, that topic is gone. That we've done through that topic.
No, I know where Karen brings value.
Yeah.
Karen is the right person to look at the video and slap the table or raise it up and say, here's what I think. Not from your own video, but from one that we might be able to build, to get, and say, Karen, what do you think? Because it's great having that view. We need that view.
Yep. Absolutely. Love that. I love the positive approach, WD. Lovely. That's exactly what we need. The positive approach, how we can work around it. That's what we need.
Exactly.
Okay. 1 second. Indrani is here. 1 sec. Indrani is in South Africa. And in the WD, we're very happy. 1 second, I'll just tell you. When Indrani connects to the audio, I'll just tell you. Very important thing. Something which is the most important part of this whole group that we have. But her audio is taking a little too long to connect. So I'm just waiting. You're also waiting for me to tell you what it's all about. 1 sec.
Algae Bear is really.
Yes, now she's online. Indrani is online. Indrani, I was just going to tell WD. Are you going to see you or not?
I'm trying to log on, Vikram, on the main computer in my study. I'm now on the mobile. For some reason, is it on Zoom, right?
Yep.
Okay, give me another 5 minutes and I'll come on properly.
But you stay here. But I was just going to tell WD the important link between us. The important link is that WD is also a golfer. Indrani is also a golfer.
Oh, it's on now.
And she stays right next to a golf course.
Even better.
Yeah, a couple of, actually 3 kilometers from a very, very, I think the pros have tournaments there as well. It's a very nice golf course.
Okay, I have to go. I'm already late. So.
Okay,
Lisa, look forward to seeing you next time.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, Lisa.
Bye.
See you.
Bye, Lisa.
Bye-bye.
So Indrani, what were you doing? You were saying you were busy somewhere. What was that
No,
thing?
last week, yes, I had to go to a. I'm coming on now. Perfect. On the other side. So I'm just connecting to the study. Oh, there you go.
Well, why is it, WD, why does it take so long for the audio to connect?
Hi, Vikram. I'm now properly.
Are you there? Now you're with us. Yes, finally you're here.
Good afternoon, good evening. Hello, everyone. Good to
Hello,
be here.
hello.
Yeah.
So what were you
Hello.
saying? You were busy somewhere. You said I was going to be busy doing something.
Not this week, last week when I couldn't make the meeting that I apologized on. I went for a land rights mediation that was on the ground. So, you know, all protocol to COVID protection. And it was just trying to bring the parties to a immediate interim solution so that they can coexist in harmony. And we did have some breakthrough there, which was great.
But are you in a situation you can actually talk about it? There's no confidentiality aspect of it. Can you just, or maybe without specific, just to what were you doing? Was it's interesting to see what's happening there?
Yeah, you know, in South Africa, we have pretty much lots of disputes in land. And it's based on our historical apartheid era sort of scenario, and compounded by the fact that government has been, let's say, restituting parties to. Can you see me? I must have put a light on in the study.
No, it's perfectly all right. If you're comfortable with this, it's okay. We'll see you better that way, but that's perfectly all right. Because I sometimes feel that light is an issue. I have a light in front of me, which I feel I should put off because that strain comes on your eyes over time.
Say again? Oh yeah, the light, yes.
Yeah.
So basically what we have in land in particular is the land reform, land redistribution, land restitution. So a lot of the beneficiaries that were dispossessed during the apartheid regime in South Africa are now being restituted back to as close as from where they were dispossessed previously. And the government has made some fatal flaws, in my considered opinion, having been on the project for as many years as I have been a senior mediator. And it is that they've placed beneficiaries with no common, let's call it, historical value to the land. So what they've done is they've taken people from, let's call a region like a town, and they've placed beneficiaries that were dispossessed very randomly into those pockets of communal properties. So they almost like bought land from historically white-owned land farms that were functional, gave it to maybe 100 beneficiaries, which as individuals come with an average of 4 to 5, sometimes 10 people in a particular homestead. So you're looking at 100 homesteads with 1,000 in the final analysis benefactors to that piece of communal property. And typically they haven't been adequately trained and mentored to take over the farm. The mindset isn't one of let's make this work as a collective. And as a result of that, you have conflict, black on black conflict, which is very, very difficult to sort of get them to see clearly the errors in their ways, because people hide behind, oh, we didn't know because we were not trained. And yet it's pretty much in the final analysis, marginalizing of the majority for the benefit of a few fat cats that know how to manipulate the system. And so what you typically have is a lot of multi-million-dollar farms that were functional, that were productive, equipment has now become dysfunctional John dolls. So they've stripped the equipment, they've stripped the farmhouses, they rent the farm now for squatter kind of livings, and basically 1 or 5 or 10 people in that community start benefiting from it. So when we get involved and go to those types of disputes, it's pretty much a hand in glove approach to redressing what's going on. One is to neutralize the conflict and thereafter regularize that communal property. So that's the kind of process that I initially went into last week, Vikram, and a backdrop to broad-based land challenges in South
But this is not, this hasn't become violent. It's all just a conflict. There's no violence in that. There's no violence happening there.
Well, not on this particular one, but I have dealt with conflict in provinces outside from where I live, where it was really huge. In other words, the value of that farm was almost R1 billion. So 990 million odd rand was the purchase value of a functional farm. And the mistake here was it was given to over 2,000 beneficiaries.
I think, Rani, you got the signal issues there. But WD, how much rand into US dollar?
No idea.
Which means that you can Google it like I will Google it right now.
And you're the guy that doesn't read, right?
Don't make fun of it now.
No, I know. I'm celebrating it. we need somebody who's surveying the landscape. So 1 rand is 66 cents US dollar.
Okay, so that puts it in perspective. That
so
the amount involved.
What'd you say? 990
million.
Thousand. Oh, no.
90,000.
9 million rand is 597.
But WD, did I share this? That one particular hole in South Africa where they take you by helicopter? Did I share that?
Yeah, we talked about. Yeah, we did. We looked at that. What intrigues me about what Andrani is saying, and she's dropped off. She's probably going to.
But she'll come back. She'll come back. She'll come back. Yeah.
Yeah, I was born in Panama, South America, and I left before the United States and the Panama Canal Company Jimmy Carter gave it back to the Panamanian government. And so that scale, the Panamanian populace and the business side, they didn't. We'll wait till she comes back.
She's back. She's back.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened there. It's the first time that sorry. So
I think Vikram put you in a timeout. I'm not sure why.
No, Indrani, WD is creating another dispute here, a conflict situation.
Hold on a second.
But it's also holding a lot of airtime, and it's not my intention at all to do that. I'd rather listen more than I speak.
No, we want to hear. I want to hear you. This is really interesting because I know after this is just the facts, as how you went about it, what really happened, and all that. Because this is areas which really a lot of work has to happen, and I think this is the kind of experience we need to share with people all over.
And Donnie,
so you've done this for a long time. You've done these land disputes for a long time, right? I'm curious. Do you have any knowledge about how the New Zealand government worked with the Maori Nation to settle similar type things with land dispute?
No,
the Maoris
I haven't.
The indigenous.
Okay. Yeah. Look, we obviously do take readings from the Aborigines, from that type of conflict, Australia, New Zealand. But there's no, you see, because we have such a dynamic, almost landscape around the whole land issue. Land has been an issue for conflict before even mediation became a word, in my considered opinion.
But Rani, can I just pause you for 1 second? I'll just go to the loo and come back. You guys have your discussion. I'll just come back in 1 minute.
Thank you.
But don't say anything which is going to be very relevant in terms of the whole mediation that you did and all that. Please don't have. I want to hear all that. Although I can hear it in the recording, but please. But general, I'm just coming back.
We'll have a general chat.
Yeah. It won't take me too long. I'm just coming.
Thank you. Yeah, no, WD, is that how I address you? Is that you? I can only see you coming up as WD Thompson.
Oh, yes, that's fine.
Yeah, is that how I address you? WD.
WD or Windsor. If you when people call me by Windsor, usually I'm in trouble for something, but it's whatever you prefer.
Well, I think Windsor is is good enough. WD is also good enough. Whatever you're most comfortable with. And basically, I'm watching a show called The Windsors at the moment. A British show with the obviously royalty and all of that.
No relation.
So yes, it's important, I think, if we, in general terms, you know, like my interest is mediation. I'm very, very passionate about it. So in order for me to impact value, I do try to read as much around the matter that I'm dealing with, but predominantly, you know, you don't want it to be info overload on the other side of things as well. But yes, we have explored similar you know, occurrences in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the officials that work for government, they're more obviously mentored in terms of how can we benchmark a solution without reinventing the wheel from scenarios that have happened in our continent, because there's a lot of that even in our continent. In Kenya, there's a lot of land disputes that occur on the basis of 100-year leases that predominantly is white managed. So, you know, you have that type of dynamic at play in the continent as well.
Mm-hmm. I also see some similarities. I was born in Panama, South America, to an American dad and an English mom. And Jimmy Carter, our president, ultimately gave away or returned the Panama Canal back to the Panamanian government. And it took less than a year to recognize that they lacked the infrastructure, the training, the management savvy. And there used to be a train that used to go back and forth from the Atlantic side to the Pacific side. You could do it 3 or 4 times a day, you know. And it, in less than a year, it became known as the down and back, because it would make it to one end and then it would break. And it could be a couple days before to get back. So I see what you're saying about, okay, so they've gotten the rights to this farm and they just can't have it. It's analogous to my friends that say, when I graduate college, I'm buying a BMW. And I go, wait a second, you can buy it. Can you afford to keep it?
Yeah.
You know, I don't think
Absolutely. They know. So that's the challenge, because I know Vikram wants to be party to the specifics, so we'll wait for him. But in general terms, I mean, I think all over the world, when you have too many individuals and not, let me say, designated roles within that setup, you're going to have, so I came a step short of saying that the government actually set these guys up for failure inadvertently. They didn't do it with the intention of doing that. So we've learned many lessons, and we are now trying to fix that up. But I think the horse is bolted, if I can put it like that. It's too far gone, but we are in a process as outside consultants coming into a system, not just with the conflict, but the regularizations now, and putting people in jail and so on where need be. So it's going into another level. So my role from mediator, I switch caps, but I'll wait for Vikram to talk a little bit more about that in respect to the hardcore, almost like application of neutralizing conflict or keeping it in abeyance, and then starting to have elections and put the committee in place, make sure it's done democratically, etc., etc.
Vikram talks a lot about deal mediation, where at the founding formation of contracts, that just by having a mediator in the room, they can, using medical terms, we all know what the postmortem is, but the premortem, we can kind of set the conditions so that they get a better deal. And have, in what you're doing, do they have an approach like that where mediators are actually proactively working on this handoff, this agreement?
Well, you know, because it's a government-based service, so this you really don't have that luxury of they don't pay for the service. One, we subcontract into the government, so that sort of typical exchange of service between the two parties is no longer in play, and it's a way that the government has almost from inception, what we call the land rights management project, the LRMF. was initiated to redress the shortcomings in the multiple layers of conflict that communities found themselves in. So where are you based, Windsor? Are you in New Zealand?
No, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, I can see that now, but couldn't quite see it without my glasses. Ah, lovely.
Well,
So
I'm there with you on the glasses.
yes, it's dead giveaway here. I mean, as you get past a certain age, I need them. Let me put it like that, especially for reading. So Vikram, I see that you're back in.
Yes. What did I miss? What did I miss?
No, we were trying to keep it as general as possible, but in essence, I was saying to Windsor that the setup in South Africa with the allocation of land was identified that the government almost set these beneficiaries in these communal properties up for failure. Obviously, inadvertently, they didn't want to create conflict, but because they were just handed the farm and not mentored, not coached, not monitored and implemented in terms of the overall what we want to see out of it, it went out of hand. And it's typical of the public servant mentality, especially in our country, which is simply that it's a paid holiday. We do as little as possible for as much as we can get out of the system. And I believe that it's due to the poor leadership. The fish always rots from the head. So they see the president and his politicians, raping the country and carrying on as if there's no redress for the injustice. And so it spills right down into a clerk's post or an official's post.
But in that context, you have to tell us where mediation would fit in. Because our focus.
I'm coming there. So I'm not just talking about land. It's a very exciting place we find ourselves in the ADR, particularly mediation front in South Africa, where it's now a almost, there's a punitive measure if you do not take mediation seriously as lawyers when there's a dispute between two parties. And okay, that's for a very long conversation. I really don't want to hog up the time as if I'm the main feature here.
No, you are the main feature. We need the entire perspective. We are listening, and we are patient.
I'm a bit weak. I'm going for a COVID test tomorrow because I suspect that I may have COVID. So I also don't know.
What symptoms? Any symptom as such?
Yeah, symptoms are that I've been feeling drained, tired, and my throat is now starting to have a little bit of a thing. So I spoke with my doctor, who said that she'll issue me with a note to go to a center tomorrow to have the test done. I'm not by any means washed out. I wouldn't be in front of the computer.
Because WD sitting here, he's a nurse. WD, anything to that on the COVID situation?
Well, I already had COVID back in November, and in my Army unit, I command several hundred people. We're about 70%, and most of the symptoms people have had loss of taste and smell, and then feeling run down, and that little like scratch in the throat. Some people had some shortness of breath, activity intolerance. Some people have had headaches, like it's described as like a wet blanket on your head. So they could still function, but they really just wanted to sleep. They needed a few days to sleep. Are you in South Africa? Are you doing the vaccine?
No, it hasn't even arrived as far as I know. But clearly it's I've read today that they plan to roll this out mid-February. So I think the first thought would be to the medical fraternity to get them all vaccinated and then start the rollout. But there's a lot of question marks around that. So yes, as I was saying, we're on the second wave here. So I think I know exactly how I contracted it if I have it. So it's very scary because I dropped my guard for that moment. And the lad just confirmed to me today that he was positive when we had this interaction. I just got to pray that, mine is going to go away as soon as possible. But I am self-isolating. I'm not really, even in my own home, I'm not, luckily, it's big enough for us to just keep in our own corners.
Well, I'm not a physician. I'm an ICU trauma emergency room type person with a lot of military experience. And I do work in the community hospital here in intensive care. There are high touch, low tech things we can do to promote how well we breathe, how we sit and how we sleep. In the hospital, we usually have COVID patients sleeping on their tummy because it takes weight off of the lungs, so they have better lung expansion. But you may not have shortness of breath, might not even be an issue. But for me, because of the timeline that when I tested positive and my wife 1 week behind me, I'm not eligible, even though I'm a healthcare provider, I'm not eligible to be reconsidered until the end of February. I have to wait at least 90 days because I've already had COVID. And there's still evolving research on, is it likely or unlikely that I could get reinfected by a different mutational strain? We don't know. But my provider has said, barring anything else, the end of February, I'm probably going to recommend you get the vaccine. And then when we say get the vaccine,
Okay, now,
there's different
okay,
manufacturers.
now let's Indrani take us through that, the mediation aspect of it. I think that part of it will.
I need a mediator when I go to my doctor about this vaccine.
Okay, now.
You can ask Vikram or myself.
Maybe you can help me with that.
Yeah, before I go back to mediation, I just want to say that I hope it's not COVID. It could be a change of season type of thing. I don't know. I just really hope it isn't, because
No, actually, the problem is that these tests also, I mean, whether the false positive or something, or whether that happens. So I think maybe just, I don't know how it works. I mean, I would not be this medical aspect of it, can't comment on it. But I just think in general, the normal flus and everything are still there. They exist. So everything obviously is not, whether what happens in those tests, I mean, really, obviously, I would not know. But whether the false positive creates more of a problem, what does that happen? Do those come under the study and say, okay, this is a strain which is a variant of this or that? How does that work? Strange.
Well, that's the other thing the doctor said to me today. You could get you could get a negative outcome, but you could be positive. So there's no real, like you're going to go for a test and you're going to get a de facto, you are COVID positive. So it's very, very frustrating at the moment.
But because actually, Indrani, I was actually interested in that whole community thing, because I think that is where we really have to start.
Yeah,
that is where things.
Thank you. I'm just opening a sliding door here. Thank you, Vikram. I totally agree, because I listened into that very interesting 2-hour odd.
Almost 3 hours, Indrani, without a loo break. No loo break taken. 2 hours, 45 minutes.
Yeah, but it was riveting. It was very, very interesting. And I wish I could have been in that platform, because I had so much to sort of, I would have loved to have said a thing or two in that group. Today is a very poorly attended one, but I'm sure it will grow.
No, actually the one that what we have tomorrow is Mr. Akisanya being a part of that episode. So those episodes.
Tomorrow. Vikram?
Yeah, that's tomorrow. 2:30 p.m. GMT. 2:30 p.m. GMT.
2:30 p.m. So GMT. My time would be, I'll work it out. Don't worry.
Yeah, but I don't know. Either I'm going to decide to now give you the time only on India time. Maybe I should start doing that.
That will be the simplest for us to work.
So India time, it's 8 p.m. India time.
8 p.m. Okay, so it's 4 hours backwards for us, or thereabout. 8 p.m. India. All right, so look, the whole thing about the creativity and with mediation, it's the land. There's no right or wrong approach to the conflict, as long as we serve into the interests of both the parties, or both the factions, or both the tribes, or both the groups in dispute. It works, for a while. But again, it needs to be. We go in as consultants. We subcontract to a panel. We go in, we do our thing, and then it has to be implemented and monitored by the officials. And oftentimes, due to the overall shortcomings in that dynamic, they don't really follow through. So a lot of times it can be a waste of taxpayers' money. But when we do go in and intervene and get the parties to sign a settlement agreement, I've done a lot of ESTA, labor tenants, extension of security tenure. The communal property is usually black on black. the ESTA, the Extension of Security Tenure Act, the Labor Tenants Act, is black on white conflict. That is where a white landowner has a number of occupiers that work on the farm, or they become labor tenants on the farm that is owned by typically a white person. So those mediations for me have been very interesting, because I do get them to sign a settlement agreement, and more often than not, it's on the evaluative model. We tell them, look, Mr. Kruger or whomever, and his lawyer that attend the mediation, the occupier will attend the mediation with someone from the Landless People's Movement, or a representative that is there to protect their rights within that existence of white landowner and black occupiers. And those ones have been very interesting, because we take them through the act and say, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm trained in law. So I have been able to interpret those statutes in labor and in land, which is the two arenas around which I run my practice. And we say this is going to be the outcome, section that of ESTA. If you do not comply or think seriously about the strength of your case in regards to wanting to evict this family, or want to forcefully relocate them from one section of the farm to a less favorable section of the farm. So that's where mediation has been miraculous, brilliant in bringing about a harmonious coexistence.
But tell me, Indrani, is this happening in closed rooms, or this is like a community setting kind of thing?
Well, I've mediated under a tree.
Yeah, that's it.
So basically, it's real cold face with a white landowner. If he's a person that has humanity in him and respect for other human beings, he may invite me into his home to sit on his farmhouse somewhere in the lounge or wherever. Oftentimes it's no, because I'm still considered, although we're 26 years into democracy, there's still very deep undertones of racism that you do come into contact with, especially in rural settings, because there's all those dynamics. But I'm often invited into the farm, the landowner's home, and with the occupier, I have to sit under a tree. So it's done. We never bring them together. Very rarely is it in plenary or in a joint session. It's done maybe if the settlement agreement drafting of that, there's some real progression to the issues, then the majority of these occupiers are illiterate. So they have to put a thumbprint or a cross. It has to be interpreted. I go into these mediations with an interpreter as well, because I do not speak the language. I speak a kitchen, like a very unsophisticated or uneducated dialect of what they speak. I understand it more than I speak it, but I need to go in with an interpreter in order for it to be really real-time, cold-face interactions.
Look, the background to that question was that before you came in, we were discussing how the whole process of mediation, we have these mock mediations and these mediation competitions where you get a very unreal concept of what mediation is. So if we have a real mediation happening at the community level, can we broadcast it, or can we record it and show it outside to people?
Not within our South African. But I was very excited at that prospect for if the parties are willing to really on a government-based thing, no. But when we have commercial disputes or family disputes, and both of sides agree to the confidentiality, it's no longer an issue, then I'm excited about that prospect to give real-time value to
exactly
mentorship and so on.
Because look, Indrani, coming from the aspect that identification of the mediator mindset is what I'm trying to highlight. But once even after you have in some way found those people, you have to show them obviously everyone have their own way of conducting it and everything, but a real life situation for them to feel what it is all about, rather than go to a video online, because everyone Googles these things, and see something which is so unreal. And if you take that format, because the problem I was looking at was the way children are going through these mediation competitions. There is one particular video said 2-3 years back which was put online, and they are told in those competitions, have a look at that. So they have a look at that. So same thing is continuing. So that is where
Sure.
my concept of that unreal thing came up. So the kids can have it, but in general, communities and everything, wherever, whoever agrees. I'm not saying, look, we don't need too many, but we had a bit of a disagreement before you came in on this. So I said, you don't need all of them. All don't need all types also, but there will be certain which will in some way be something that can be used, and the party should not have a problem with. So I think,
No, I completely agree with you, Vikram. I mean, mediation is a creative process, and to have these artificial, models to think that it's going to impact a learning and a real mindset paradigm shift is you're fooling yourself. It's literally then you're working towards getting a trophy or something, but
yes, yes.
you haven't quite grasped the realness about it. And it's a creative process. There's no right or wrong solution. It's to the parties' dispute. You can come up with the most creative solutions. So from that perspective, I'm very happy that they move out of those traditional thinking and the norms. Yes, it's important to have the basics, the principles, to understand it, to know what's that about. But how you go about it as a mediator is entirely the work of God and the parties
Yep.
and the creativeness that
But no,
that
but
you
this is
bring
where,
to
and Rani,
it.
this is where that mindset comes in, because the person who has that mindset actually will flow and creatively flow through the process.
Correct.
But once the person he says that I'm a mediator because of the theory I have read, then cannot flow with it, because at every point of time is questioning the theory, or putting the theory in place. Okay, I was told this is the stage. Are we at this stage or not? Has it reached that stage? You can't do that in anything. So, golf. If I start thinking about one aspect of my swing, the shot is going to get screwed. Has to be.
Now we're going to a conversation that I'm really
Yes,
passionate.
yes. Please
But
elaborate on this.
before we go into that, I've got I want to, Indrani, thanks for sharing so much. I've got a question about the cultural dynamic. The people that you're mediating with, are they mostly men?
Well, what a good question. Yeah, majority of them in the original allocation of the land and the setups, all men.
I'm sorry. Once, yeah,
Right.
I'll get my dinner. But you people continue this. I'll see the recording on this. This is a very important question. But I think I'll get the dinner and come back, and while you continue this, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vikram, I can't be too long as well, so I'll
Let me
probably
start.
give you about
By
15
the
minutes.
time I come back, you'll be here. Let me just get my
Yeah,
dinner.
yeah.
Yeah.
So in essence, Winston, yes, most of the time men, but now we're changing that. We're saying to the community, when you elect a committee to be your voice of representation, decision making on your behalf for the benefit of the collective, that you need to have a balance in that committee of 7 or 9 people. You must have men, women. You must have gender. You must have age. Representation. So it must be, all those things must be very, very deeply considered. And clearly, someone who is a treasurer must know how to manage money, must have some background within the illiterate setting of the majority, that it must surely be that you've been to school and have done accounting and so on. So those are the kind of criteria we're putting out and trying to shift, away from.
But for the parties, they're most likely going to be male. And then you're doing what you described as shuttle diplomacy, kind of back and forth.
Yeah.
And so as a female, where do you fit in the mix of mediators working in your space, in that domain space? Are you a rarity, or like I get to be sexist and say I'm a male nurse, and I really don't like when people I don't say this is the female pharmacist, and over here we've got the old lab tech and the young X-ray tech. So those labels in your space, Are you below the half mark of mediators doing this kind of
Very
work?
good question. Look, initially you do get, who's this woman coming in here, especially if
Right.
it's racial or if it's just gender. Let's just look at gender. But unfortunately, in South Africa, you have the racial undertone as well. Who is this Indian woman coming here to us black people? Forget the white dynamic. To us black people, who to come and tell us how to do our, our ancestral marriage, our ancestral whatever. So yes, that's a very, very prevalent thing. But once you build trust and engage them with some rapport, and show them that this is a process that if they work with you, it's really in the broad-based interest of everyone, not just individuals. So you are going to get those few that will always consider you to be an outcast and negate everything that you say. Because remember, with communities, you're not dealing typically with a claimant and a respondent. You're dealing with parties from the very same home, so to put it. One shelter, but with so many different variables on the basis of that they all need to coexist together in this farm, that now you've got camps or groups or so on.
And even after this settlement, there's an expectation that this relationship is going to continue. So it's not like personal injury where just give me my check and I'm gone. They're still going to be, they're not moving, really.
Absolutely. So that is why it's so imperative, to have that monitoring and implementation after they have a settlement agreement, because I can't go and monitor and evaluate after my work is done. And because it's government property, ultimately the taxpayers, which are the people, the citizens that pay their taxes, that provide these, sort of benefits in the grand scheme for the government to do the things that they do. And it's very sad when you don't get that follow through. It's almost like you're taking half a golf swing and expecting to get the real benefit from your drive or your fairway shot, if you can go there in analogy.
Indrani, if you're going to use a golf analogy, then I got to dig a little deeper and find out about this golf. What's your favorite club? What's your favorite club?
Yeah, that's such a good question. It depends on, some days my woods don't even work for me. Okay.
Yeah.
And normally I love my 3-wood, my 4-wood, and I do play with the hybrids now because it's so my favorite club is the 8-iron at the moment. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
It really is my best friend these days. So the 8 and the 7, my irons. But if my 3s work for me on that particular day, then I was supposed to play today, but because I'm not feeling supercharged,
better to rest.
In my energy, I said no. Let me rather.
But at your club, do they have ladies' teas and men's teas, or how do they organize that?
Absolutely. We've got 3 teas. We've got teas for the pros, because like I said, this particular course, they use it for professionals that have played it for tournaments and so on, for PGA stuff. So you have the pros tea point, you have the men, and then you have the seniors, and then the ladies. So
I'm facing cultural challenges here in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I'm just on the outskirts of Nashville, Tennessee. I just crossed the state line. I'm a member of the country club. It's been a country club since 1956, and it's called Indian Hills. Because it's Indian land and hilly and water. It's a great course. But my point, I used to play a lot, and I caddied for a couple of years. I love the game. I see it as a bag of clubs and a bag of tricks, and I create shots. I'm very inventive. But when I play with my buddies, I say, if you just play the same course all the time, that's one way to do it. But sometimes I'll say, tell you what, let's take all the odd numbered irons out of the bag, or let's take all the whatever. But I also say, okay, on the longest par 5, let's tee off today from the shortest tee, and we'll go to the ladies' tee and play it. And on the shortest par 4, let's play from the pro tip.
Oh, wow.
So, and I came across this. I was in Scotland. My mom's side of the family's English, and friends took me to play outside of Edinburgh, and they only had one set of tees, and that was kind of foreign to me. And the pro said, "Well, I decide where people play from." And I'm like, so you've got all the power. There's one set of tees. And I thought, wow. And in the U.S. for national pride on the Army post, I'm a colonel in the Army. They have red, white, and blue day, where on the first hole you tee off from the red tee, and then the next hole you do the white tee, and the next hole you do the blue tee. And for whatever reason, it usually seems to work out that you'll be on the far front tee on the longest par 5, so you feel good. You know, you got a chance to get there in 2.
Okay, that's interesting. No, we have in the public courses and the private courses in South Africa. In Durban, where I come from, in proximity, in a 50K proximity, or let's say 60-kilometer proximity, I can play in world-class golf courses, and there are more than 10 that I can pick up. So we have lots of pristine, beautiful courses. But the one that's closest to my home is the Kloof Country Club, and there the women tee off from the red space.
They make you do that? That's oppressive.
Yeah. You're
missing so much of the course. And I feel oppressed when they say, "Oh, he's going to hit from the red tee." I went, "Well, come up here and join me." I mean,
no, I'd rather take
you think I'm going to get a hole in one because I'm teeing off from the red? No, and it's funny, when I was learning the game, one of the guys I played with said, "You'll do better if you pick your tee shot on a par 4 so that you leave yourself a full club in, because you don't have time to practice your short game." So I would subtract, and I'd try to be 100 yards out, which, is the perfect 52-degree wedge for me. And so,
are we saying that the whole conversation is moved to golf just because I was out of it? It needs someone. It means some moderator is required.
No, we covered a lot of ground. She was sharing a lot about the gender impacts, not just of the parties, but within our own domain space, like how females are received and things like that. But I'm always interested when I do mediation. If I'm doing co-mediation, I talk with my co-mediator, and I look at what's called the odd man out on process design. If it's 2 males and a female, where, or 2 males or 2 females and a male, how does it work? Where do you sit? I know that Vikram, you're big, you're kind of a free range, shoot from the hip. It's all good, but there is some process design that I put in play.
But before that, you tell me, are we using male, female, or are there any other terminology that you need to use to be politically correct? Is that correct enough?
Most definitely, I have to.
But that's a big problem here.
Younger people.
No, we have a competition. I judged in a competition yesterday, and these kids introducing themselves. They did that. I am so, she, her. I am this. I was quite surprised that they've picked up those things. I was talking to Lisa about this. I said we have enough skill in our language that we can actually use language in such a manner that she, her never comes up. You can start changing the entire language in such a manner, so that
I just call everybody buddy.
No, that's one part. That's one part. But I'm just saying that you can actually structure language in such a manner that you don't have to get into all this, because this is by itself becomes such a discussion point, and everywhere if the whole highlight of the discussion goes away and it goes around to whether the person used this or that. So I think a little bit on that.
It speaks to their identity, the issue they've got with their own identity.
The issue is that Indrani doesn't know that ultimately Indrani was saying not many people here. There have been situations most of the time when WD and I have been sitting, and both of us, these meetings have happened with us. This is slowly what has come up today. We've reached a lot of people, but both of us used to sit and discuss, and largely it became discussions on golf. And he's a disc golf player. So I was talking about disc golf, and I said, you know about disc golf?
No.
Okay, there's a whole sport, where you play golf with frisbees there. And each frisbee is different. One is called a driver. This one is called a putter, like that. And he's played big time.
I used to be pro.
Wow.
And I'm telling you,
I play ball golf, and I play disc golf.
And the main thing is that this is actually a sport which, at least I'm looking at India, where obviously golf as such facilities are not there. But for kids to be outdoor, nothing. You just need a few frisbees. and you're out there playing. I thought that was a very good. This should be promoted in India and everywhere else. Everywhere else. I'm sure Africa also.
Yeah. Excellent.
Well, my town has 5 disc golf courses, and we got about 75,000 people. And the neat thing about disc golf, it's all of the triumphs and public humiliation that come with regular golf in an hour.
So sorry, but for a disc course, you need a separate design of a course for it, or can you play it on an existing or separate design?
No, you can play on the existing also. I don't think there's an issue. Just basically, you just put baskets.
Yeah,
how do I get this? That
So
little basket there. That basket right there.
Yeah, I see it. So it's like throwing it into the basket with your feet.
They have these chains
Yeah,
there, so it hits the chain and falls in.
Yeah.
No, thank you. I'd rather stay with the traditional game. I'm already bad enough at that.
But that's just the fact that you open out a whole sport to people, which is any outdoor space that you can do it in. I think it's a good idea. And these kind of times when a lot of sports are not being played indoors, maybe.
Yeah.
I think this outdoor thing was
Well,
good.
South Africa has a lot of disc golf courses. Fontainebleau, Sloan, there's Randburg, Sandton, Jeffreys Bay.
We've gone too much into you have went into golf. I'm more interested in how, one, of course, this aspect of whether we can actually find a situation where we can do this live or recorded kind of thing, community thing, because I thought community was where we have to start. So, and we were,
guys, I must apologize. I have to leave in the next 9 minutes because I got something on at 6:30.
But tomorrow you're coming tomorrow.
Leave in 3 minutes.
Yeah, okay,
so.
we'll finish the meeting right now, and I'll send you the link for tomorrow's the episode for that evolution of a mediator, and I'll see you there. And I think
if I'm not feeling flat, it depends how I feel tomorrow.
But it's 4:30 p.m. Durban time is 4:30 p.m.
Yeah, but if I'm not feeling, I'll be there. I'd love to be there.
No, you'll be all right. You'll be all right. I'm sure you'll.
Even if I'm off video and I'm just listening and contributing.
Absolutely.
The guy that's coming is fantastic.
Yeah, Mr. Agasania is amazing.
He is.
Yeah. No, I was very impressed with his
very nice
articulations in that last week because it makes a lot of sense, and we're both from the same continent. I've done a lot of work in Lagos and in Abuja and so on. So it'll be interesting to see.
So that was important for you to be there. It would have been important.
I'll be there. And I'm going to just ask you to do me a favor. Send me that what you call your herbal remedies for helping with this virus.
Oh, the high touch, low touch. Sure.
I'm talking to Vikram now. But
I tell you one I have what is called the preventive. One is the first instance when you get it kind of thing. So that part of it I will send you because I don't know whether you're at the first instance or you've gone beyond that. Have you moved? It's been a day. Has it been a day since you've been feeling like this?
It's been literally a whole week now. So
okay.
I think if it is COVID, it's on and off. I feel strong, then I feel flat, and so I'm sure.
No, I don't think it might not be because obviously, but in any case, even if it is, you can't do anything about it. It has to go on. It's like
you've got to be positive and pray and hope.
Exactly.
It leaves you without compromising your life, which it can very easily happen. The other scary part in SA, there are no beds and there are no ventilators. So although I am having a private medical a hospital plan, if I need a bed and there's no bed, tough cookies.
But the only thing is that, but at that point when it reaches that stage, I mean, only then that decision has to be taken. Largely, I think it must be home hospitalization only, at home only. Things are taken care of. That level is a very different level altogether, which I don't know how many people end up at. No, I don't think it'll be like that. You're strong enough to fight that. I don't think.
Yes. That's how we.
Bye all. I'm going to have to jump off.
Yeah. All right, Rani. See you tomorrow. See you definitely.
Contact numbers. Thank you, Vikram.
Yeah,
Bye,
all right.
guys.
Bye.